Welcome. Welcome to Let Me Out Productions and the Top Brass Dow. Oh, I was deliberately terrible on that one, and I hope when I watch this back, I hope I nailed it. Welcome. Let's see how it goes immediately, huh? Welcome to Let Me Out Productions and the Top Brass Dow. Nailed it. Oh, that's exactly as terrible as I wanted it to be. Okay, let's discuss notarized co-publishing. Let's go to Let Me Out Productions. I will handle it myself early, the first part, and then we're going to get into the botcast for the second part. And then I'm going to try to wrap by it's about 6:50 p.m. Pacific time right now. I'm going to try to wrap by 8:15 so I can go grab a plate and be ready. Okay. Notarized co-publishing is objectively socialism. It is not. It is state absent socialism. It is a merchant forming intellectual property and deciding, in the formation of the intellectual property, to socialize the existence of that property. And the way to do that is you socialize the existence of the property in the way that it is published. So you establish a deed to the property. Let me walk you through this, because I've done this to the brand, and the brand is the guide for everybody else. Oh, there's a little tab for it. Okay, so this is our brand, Let Me Out Productions. Instead of the brand existing as one unit of property that I would normally vertical, as they say, through Shark Tank or some sort of investment market, where I trade entity and intellectual property wrapped together as one unit based on the metrics that I'm bringing the investor. The investor measures the metrics, they measure my ask, and then their job is to take a big old shark bite based on the information that they have. That is the market. I have a graphic I can show you how this actually works for everybody. And increasingly, as time goes on, merit is absent. There still will always be a level of merit, I think, to some degree, because there has to be something. There has to be something, you know what I mean? The Film 3 group was a great example from early in the market, if you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, we're not going to get into that right now. But yeah, these are people that were based. Oh, I talked about it yesterday on stream. I looked up the origins of the bear market phrasing as etymology, and I was curious because it didn't say, sorry y'all Europeans, it didn't sound like a European term. There's a Scotsman. Let me load this up. Let me not just talk out my ass. Let me source it. There's Merriam-Webster that was helping me out with this. Merriam-Webster? With an A? Merriam-Webster. Like Merriam Pippin. No. This wasn't it. This wasn't where I got it. Maybe it's on the wiki. Okay, so it's a native term. Okay, I couldn't source the exact native nation. If I had to guess, it would be Lenny Lenupe, or AKA Delaware, or one of the first contact nations between Europe and the Americas. But where did it come from? Was this the site? This might have been it. Okay, this is what it was. Yeah, this is the term bear market originates from early 18th century London, where traders who sold shares they did not own were called bearskin jobbers, reflecting the idea of selling of bearskins before catching the bear. That does not come from 18th century London. That does not come from that comes from native nations way before European contact. And there was, and that was a social fabric warning. Don't sell the bearskin before the bear, meaning don't promise the results of the hunt before you've done the hunt. That's what that means. So the tribe would have hunters, we'd have gatherers, we'd have scholars, etc. We'd have our tribal makeup, and the hunters would go out, and instead of promising a result into an expectation and setting up disappointment or satisfaction, they'd go secure the result, and then everybody would deal with the result. So that's where the term actually comes from. It's not 18. There's a Scottish gentleman who wrote a poem about the bear market in when I want to say it was 1720. Was it Oxford? I swear it was one of these dictionaries that oh, you have to subscribe. Everything's subscription now. I gotta subscribe to the dictionary. No, come on, come on. You know, on there's a level where that does make sense because of data scraping and all that. Let's check out Chosa and see what they have. Okay. According to Reader's Digest, the term bear market began circulating, that's accurate to say, in the early 18th century in London's Exchange Alley. It was imported to London's Exchange Alley from Native Americans. These traders were called bearskin jobbers, a phrase that derived from the proverb sell the bearskin before catching the bear. This practice of pre-selling non-existent bearskins to profit from price drops resembles today's short selling. Anyway, this is interesting. I'll put it in chat. Chat. I'm increasingly known as Chat Daddy, everybody. Do I even want to be Chat Daddy? Okay. Way off track immediately. Just immediately. 8 minutes of off track immediately. So, we are co-publishing our market vessels using a public notary service. In order to do that, we declare and define the intellectual property as a publishing structure called an impact puzzle. I wrote a paper on exactly how to do this. I did not write a paper on how to form your deed. You have to purchase that element from us. That is what we're selling. That is part of the benefits of co-publishing the brand of Let Me Out Productions, is that you learn how to write a deed that fractionalizes your property for co-publishing. This describes the general behavioral theory. Here you go. Paste that in the chat. So if I copy this and I go to private browser and I hit paste and go, is it asking me to, is it taking me to the edit? No, I just get to read it. Yeah, that's exactly what I want. Good. There you go. They have a fancy reading bot now. So we're going to use the fancy reading bot. Because when I read, I'm monotone. A lot of people deal with that.
Impact Puzzles, a framework for on-chain co-publishing, a tokenomics framework that translates labor into property via hard-capped publishing titles, based on impact puzzles on the LMO structure for tokenomics, originally published on March 24th, 2021. Written by Kimani Okera 1, November 9th, 2025, ver 2.0.1.
You can read version 1. It's the second tab. And then even beyond that, I have the very first draft on the notary. So where is that? Here it is. Let's post that in the chat. August 4th, 2021. Hey, Devin, look, you didn't get rid of a mint date. Oh my goodness. The platform here, OpenSea, when you go to these mint dates, this is when you bring an asset or a user filing into Origin, and if you hover 5 years ago, which was 2021, you'll see I filed the original draft of the paper on August 4th, 2021 at 1:09 p.m. This interface is OpenSea. This is a market interface, and on a lot of our assets, they straight up have this bar hidden because of our provenance and because of our position in the market. So there is widespread obfuscation, censorship, a lot of people moving against me to try to make sure notarized co-publishing doesn't go wide. But it's very interesting because traditionally I think they probably just, but because it's notarized and can't be deleted and can't be messed with, they have to thoroughly establish narrative before they do anything to me. And then now they're realizing that the whole thing to just steal from it, to steal everybody's published results, feed it to AI, and try to sell it back to us, won't work. We need supply and demand. We need supply and demand. That's what we need. Okay. Let's get back to this.
0. Abstract. The emergent collaborative economy necessitates a verifiable and equitable system for shared value creation. This paper presents blockchain as a public notary technology, functioning as a, quote, cognitive community cement for, quote, co-publishing the economy. Drawing from a cognitive linguistic perspective, we detail a tokenomics framework, the impact puzzle, that transforms a wider intellectual property container, traditionally transacted as one unit, into modular, co-publishable units of titled property that result in the existence of the wider container. We illustrate how this notarized system comprehensively addresses critical economic challenges, including precise ownership attribution, fair profit distribution, content distribution, decentralized crowdfunding, and the immutable enforcement of rights. By ensuring permanent provenance and fostering genuine community engagement, this model offers a significant advancement in the transparent and equitable generation of collective economic value. All scales of economic collaboration can and should be measured as an impact puzzle in human linguistic behavior. 0.1 Ethical AI Library Co-Publishing.
I just had a really good idea as to how to disseminate this information from here on out, so I'll be doing that for a good portion tomorrow. I'm not muted, am I? Okay, thank goodness. Is there anything I need to extrapolate on the emergent collaborative economy? That's just the abstract. Yeah, it just announces what the paper's about. All scales of economic collaboration can and should be measured as an impact puzzle in human linguistic behavior. So, if there are any platforms that learned to adopt this behavior from me, but are trying to force me out of the pole position in the podium, for whatever justification you think you have, do not do that. You'd have zero justification. I'm telling you right now, you have zero justification. I don't care what you think you have. You do not get to enslave people and express their work on your own behalf through infrastructure and software. Jesus. These bugs. Where are they coming from? Okay, let's let the bot keep going.
Furthermore, any AI library can and should be co-published with an ethical account of contribution using impact puzzle behavior. This approach ensures that all contributors own their contributions as property within terms. All contributors to the AI library are considered co-publishers and are fairly compensated for their specific contributions, fostering a collaborative and equitable environment. By leveraging blockchain technology, this model provides a transparent and secure system for managing contributions and ensuring that earnings are distributed accordingly. We suspect that this ethical accounting is already happening in some contexts, but contributors are often left out of the benefits generated by their contributions on the market. Our aim is to correct this by implementing a structured and transparent system that recognizes and rewards all contributors. 00.2 corporate...
Pause and extrapolate. So, this is already happening. They're already using my impact puzzle methodology to collectively publish AI libraries. In fact, it's the standard for AI. It's the standard for what's published into data centers. Is my specific work. Okay, this is what it looks like. The only difference here, as you're learning, is that the shared property that the merchant declares and forms has now been declared and formed as a data collection. The modular units of account that form that shared property, which are supposed to be publishing titles, have been declared as data shards, which transfers you from being a co-publishing owner of your publishing title in the shared property into being a contributor of a data shard to a data collection which belongs to some fucking corporation. And they're selling licensing and they're selling use of that data collection to other corporations for millions upon billions of dollars, and you're just left out. They have a treasury map right there for who published what. They can pay performance to that treasury map. It's right there. That is what the accounting language is for. It's for paying performance to co-publishing owners of publishing titles that build the shared property. That is the fucking precedent. These corporations do not get to come in, steal the precedent, censor me, publish all of us to their data centers, and just pretend nothing's going on. There's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people committing fucking fraud right now. Fraud. They don't give a shit. They think they have a fiduciary obligation to defraud and rob their neighbor. Burn in hell. The good book, every good book, is extremely clear about do not rob or defraud your neighbor. So you robbed and defrauded me, the author of the damn publishing method, to then rob and defraud everybody else. I will not talk about Hassan Piker today. That is not what we are doing, but everybody who's in the know understands that that lying piece of fucking shit ran Vanguard for corporate data slavers. He ran Vanguard by killing socialism with lies, and then the socialized publishing method that I'm teaching is now being used to express everybody into data centers while paying nobody. Shit's, yeah, I can see why people think it's biblical. I really do. But the flip side of that is the lack of action, the lack of activity, the lack of purchase, the lack of development, the lack of is also people. You're being the work is a reward of faith. Period. It protects everybody in terms of their published rights to what the hell we publish. In a time where these big tech corporations think they can just take it all. So here, on my work lies the class action. On my work lies the ability to protect everybody. It's not me. I'm just some dipshit. I'm just some conduit the ancestors and God chose to to produce this. For me, from my little tiny Stardust avatar perspective, this is over 2 decades of work, research, and preparedness that landed me here. Why can't I go? There has to be a way to get the nobody wants UTC flat. I want my local time, man. That looks worse. That looks worse than it was when I'm gonna go to OpenSea's interface to get my mint date correct. I don't like April 1st. That ain't right. Oh, see, that's what I'm talking about. This is deliberate. This is fraud by material omission right here. They're just playing in my face. They're just playing in my face. Okay. So 5 years ago, March 31st, 2021, 5:46 p.m. Can everybody see that? Does it help if I blow it up? Yeah. That's the original filing for this publishing method, for brand publishing this way. If I didn't come from a small town of mostly white people that have enslaved this to uppity nigger conversation, ooh, world would be a different place today. We might have a different president, man. It's okay. It's all good though. In due time. Like I said, it's out of my hands. This is what was in my hands, and I did my task. So the rest of it's on you guys. The rest of it is humanizing the precedent, finding information from the precedent, and learning instead of reacting to an antecedent, throwing a big fat fucking tantrum over the antecedent, refusing to learn about the tool at all because of an antecedent, and then just ignoring my humanity to maintain your tantrum. That's what everybody's priority is, because the tantrum gives you social hierarchy, and that's your true addiction. You people are monsters. I'm gonna crash out if I don't let botcast take back over.
Platform users are already smart contracts. Additionally, each corporate platform user is already a smart contract of their own agency. Each data point uploaded by the user, whether knowingly or not, is notarized and recorded against their agency as published property with a non-fungible token on a private yet permanent blockchain. Most users are unaware of and therefore cannot consent to the use of their data, fostering disharmony and mistrust. Smart contracts. A smart contract is a notarized agreement, oftentimes its own software, that defines and manages digital property. On most corporate platforms, users are already represented as smart contracts, ensuring that their data contributions are securely recorded on whichever behind-the-scenes blockchain the corporation is employing. Notarized data points. Each data point uploaded by the user is notarized and recorded as published, titled property. This provides a clear and enforceable framework for data ownership. Ethical data management. Corporations should not farm data without users thoroughly knowing what they are contributing to. Using impact puzzles to form and account for data pools promotes ethical data management practices and justifies transaction residuals from the market performance of the supplied data. This model is already being implemented across the internet, and as stated, it is immoral and unethical for corporations to farm data without users knowing what they are contributing to. Impact puzzle behavior provides the accounting solution, ensuring that users are fairly compensated for their data contributions and that the data is managed transparently and ethically.
By the way, this is for Elon. You can't just include paid users into this. It's everybody contributing data. It's everybody. So for those who aren't in the know, Elon did set up an impact puzzle residual system over at X, but he's only applying it to paid accounts. So Elon, you need to apply data residuals to all accounts. Or Nikita, whoever the hell I'm talking to over there. You need to apply the mapped residuals to all accounts. I need my residuals too. Look, after that's established, if you say, hey, because you are a monthly contributor, you're a subscriber, you're a member, that would be a member. They're subject to the subscription. Because you're a monthly subscriber, you qualify for a higher residual payment. That's fine. Who's gonna be mad at that? We do that. It's commitment, higher reward. Nobody has a problem with that. The thing is, every single person's published results need to be monetized or need to be included in how they're monetized. Okay? Because if you charge for special access to the monetization of the published result, you're just maintaining a fucking case system, and my work will not maintain a fucking case system. It will not. It's here to break the case system, whatever the fuck. It's here to break it. Or at least ensure that any social hierarchy reflected in the economy is anchored by actual merit of what you're contributing. Not anchored by manipulation, not anchored by leverage. That's everything right now, it's leverage. All of you dog shit people, like you're leverage-seeking clowns. I see. I can't teach when I'm crashing. This is the whole thing's already tossed. Dang it! All right, let's don't crash out. Don't crash out. We're just teaching. The last 5 years have been really hard, economically, personally. I learned that I didn't have very many friends to begin with. That's what I learned. And there's a lot of freedom that comes with that. I'll tell you what. So I'm not even broken about that. I learned that my family's problems with how they treat each other and how they treat me are always going to stay the same regardless of context, regardless of opportunity. So I've learned some tough lessons in my personal life. I've learned who in my immediate community actually has community in their hearts and in their minds. Very few people. It's not a lot. Most of y'all have social hierarchy in your mind, and as soon as supporting somebody else in the community affiliates you with a lower position in social hierarchy, you want nothing to do with it. And that is most people. That is 95 to 99% of people. And I only want to affiliate with people that have nothing to, we don't want to do. So what's social hierarchy? Why? As far as I'm concerned, I already did the social hierarchy. I achieved what I needed to achieve. Like, if you're being honest about it, you're being real about it, you're actually applying credit to my contributions to the media publishing ecosystem. Come on. Now, the unfortunate thing about that is my contributions to the media publishing ecosystem directly bore fucking Hassan Piker, who then turned around and killed this because his only interest is social hierarchy. Okay. Keep on going.
Keywords, equity, co-publishing, cognitive linguistics, creation of value, delivery of value, impact property, puzzle structure, zero, forward, go forward, word for word with a fourth word for word's sake. This is not a white paper. This is gray literature. Raw, open source, battle-tested, and permanently mirrored on-chain. We are co-publishing the economy as a language. Every idea is a puzzle. Every contribution is a Lego-style piece. Every piece is a publishing title, a deed-defined non-fungible token, NFT, in a pool of similar publishing titles that grants real, fractional, perpetual property in a shared intellectual work. The NFT was never just art. As HTML is to a website, an NFT is to a publishing title. Labor translates to property for all contributors, creators, platforms, hired labor, unions, and property purchasing customers alike. The customer becomes co-owner and co-publisher. 0.1 Key definitions. Block, a stack of simultaneously registered user information on a public notary network, ensuring transparency and security. Chain, the permanent, immutable, programmable, and impartially witnessed record of blocks, providing a reliable and transparent ledger of transactions and rights. Non-fungible token, NFT, a publishing title to intellectual property, anchoring ownership and rights over specific aspects as defined and assigned in a deed to said property. Impact puzzle, a structure of publishing titles that allows each title to function as a Lego-style piece of the overall intellectual property being built. This approach ensures that every brand, product, service, experience, and distributed asset has an accurate account of rights, processes, and results contributed by the builders. 0.2 Key concepts. 0.2.1 Linguistic framework for property definition. In linguistics, the definition and understanding of property can be analyzed through the lens of how language structures and communicates ownership, boundaries, and rights. This framework helps us understand how property is conceptualized and managed through language and legal documents. 0.2.2 Key linguistic concepts. Fixed points. Definition. Fixed points refer to specific, unchangeable references that define the boundaries and characteristics of property. Linguistic role. In language, fixed points can be likened to constants or anchors that provide a stable reference for understanding and communication. Example. In property deeds, fixed points might include specific landmarks, coordinates, on or off the blockchain, and/or legal descriptions that define the property's boundaries. Measurable distances. Definition. Measurable distances are quantifiable spans or extents that can be objectively measured and verified. Linguistic role. These distances serve as metrics or units of measurement that provide clarity and precision in communication. Example. In property deeds, measurable distances might include the length and width of a property, distances between landmarks, distances between fixed points, and/or other quantifiable metrics. Impartial witness. Definition. An impartial witness is an unbiased observer or recorder who verifies and attests to the accuracy and fairness of information. Linguistic role. This concept is akin to a neutral third party who provides an objective account or verification, ensuring transparency and trust. Example. In property transactions, an impartial witness might be a notary public or a legal official who oversees and certifies the transaction. 0.2.3 Acknowledgements. I am deeply grateful to numerous individuals whose support was crucial in the initiation and completion of this project. Foremost, I extend my heartfelt thanks to the co-founders of Let Me Out Productions, Aaron Apodaca and Aniket Malve. I am also thankful for the interest shown by MetaPurse in the Press Pass All-Access franchise during the period from March to June 2021. Without their interest and their pioneering demonstration of blockchain fractionalization, specific aspects completion of this project. Foremost, I extend my heartfelt thanks to the co-founders of Let Me Out Productions, Aaron Apodaca and Aniket Malve. I am also thankful for the interest shown by MetaPurse in the Press Pass All-Access franchise during the period from March to June 2021. Without their interest and their pioneering demonstration of blockchain fractionalization through their B20 project, this model might not have been explored. I would like to express my appreciation to the professors and authors who, unbeknownst to them, guided me throughout the writing process and introduced me to the key ideas that shaped this material. Their collective intellectual support was truly invaluable. I will take the time to include a special thanks section to acknowledge these scholars by name. Additionally, I would like to thank all the early adopters of our co-publishing efforts for their support, friendship, and engaging conversations. I also wish to extend my unique and specific thank you to my auntie from my foster foundation family, Lynn Harker, for perceiving and valuing me for who I truly am. I am especially grateful to my parents, Oscar and Paula, for providing a childhood that made this possible at all. My biological brother, Kiavani Lyles, passed away a few weeks after I wrote and published the first draft. May he rest in power. Without my urgency to prevent that outcome, perhaps this model would not have been explored. I would like to thank Star Holiday, Oscar David, Jakari Jackson, and especially Ethan Apodaca for their united attention to stability during this process and during my entropic health issues. I am grateful for my sisters from my united family, foster/biological. I fight through these health issues to create a compound value reality for all of us to publish and enjoy. Of course, I adore my nephews, Marley, Julian, and Rory, and my nieces, Katarina, Elle, Keely, Paisley, Delaney, and Huntley. They are an endless source of my joy and amusement. I achieved my associate's degrees in behavioral science and liberal arts at Sierra College. I achieved my bachelor's in film/digital media production with a minor in linguistics, phonetic analysis at the University of California, Santa Cruz. If life shapes to suit ambition, I will be pursuing my PhD in cognitive linguistics at the University of Aberdeen in Scotland, where I will focus on 3 theses I'm developing. Hash, thesis, core idea, key application. 1. Sanctimony is an addictive communication behavior. Self-righteous prescriptivism, sanctimony SRP, acts as a neurochemical addiction, a dopamine epinephrine serotonin DSE cocktail that rewards moral superiority, drives social exclusion, and anchors violence/bias in language. Roots out sanctimonious regurgitation in AI training via Zygen linguistics, and critiques gatekeeping in media/economics. 2. Impact puzzle behavior establishes an equitable language of labor value. Traditional property fragments labor. Fixed cap impact puzzles, e.g., notarized NFTs as publishing titles, use modular, merit-measured co-ownership to create a fair linguistic structure for value creation and distribution. Powers LMO Pro's co-publishing models, e.g., PressPass, Musical Bears, ensuring creators retain fractional equity instead of exploitation.
That thesis is the one that is now stolen and applied to corporate data centers across the world. I'm buried. I'm obfuscated. No credit. And the justification on the wide scale is that my own hometown community, again, it's a racist, small-ass town of 4,000 people in the hills of California, who are all, they've got a cocaine problem. Not all of them, but you know what I mean. There's like a cocaine culture, and this is all they do. They reward each other's moral superiority, and they drive social exclusion. So what did they do here? Didn't bother to figure out what I was doing. And they said, hey, moral superiority and social exclusion. Hey, we get an opportunity to do that. Let's do that. You matter so little to us that we're going to do that to you in front of the fucking world. So that's Forest Hill, California for you. Don't blame anybody who's like younger than 30. If they're younger than 30 and they're from that town, that's not their responsibility. And additionally, if they're older than if they're in that town and they're older than 55, they're probably not on the internet. So the elders and the youth of Forest Hill, California, no responsibility. It is my contemporaries that know me, know my sense of humor, know my publishing expertise, know my career, that turned around and uppity niggered me. And to this fucking day, I've had 5 years of people that could have been building their own wealth positions, having themselves a broke ass, because none of them have money, they're all in debt, point and laugh, uppity nigger. And then they sell that to the world. And that's what Hassan Piker's doing as well. So, Ludwig, wake the fuck up. Because I'm coming. I'm coming for all you fucking clowns. I'm coming for you. Coming for you. Let's get back to the paper. I want to send this to somebody, so I'm not alone here.
Three, hormonal cascades shift perception of reality in escalating states. Communication triggers hormonal cascades that shift perceivable reality in escalating stages. Tap, brief spike, seconds, minutes, e.g., adrenaline rush. pivot, sustained shift, hours, days can compound. Governance, semi-permanent rewiring, replaces default state, often needs external healing, provides a framework for understanding and analyzing the lasting effects of linguistic and social interactions on cognition and emotion. 1. Introduction. The modern economic landscape is undergoing a profound transformation. No longer confined to hierarchical structures and siloed operations, value creation is increasingly a decentralized, collaborative endeavor, characterized by vast networks of contributors working on a quote, 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 quote,
Oh, yeah, this has happened again. Shit, stop doing that. Where were we at? Because this happened before.
Quote, quote, quote.
She freaks out, like...
Effects of linguistic and social interactions on cognition and emotion. 1. Introduction. The modern economic landscape is undergoing a profound transformation. No longer confined to hierarchical structures and siloed operations, value creation is increasingly a decentralized, collaborative endeavor, characterized by vast networks of contributors working on a quote, 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 quote.
Okay, that's where it is. On a container of intellectual property. So let's see if we can skip all these quotes.
Or any gathering of labor under a united name, container. While this collaborative spirit promises unprecedented quote, 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 working on a quote, 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 of intellectual property, any brand, franchise, product, service, experience, distributed asset, set of logistics, operational organization, and or any gathering of labor under a united name, container. While this collaborative spirit promises unprecedented innovation and abundance, it simultaneously introduces the need for a better structure for the container. The impact puzzle is the solution. The structure addresses fundamental challenges in accurately attributing contributions, ensuring equitable value distribution, and fostering unwavering trust among disparate participants in any container, no matter the scale. Impact puzzle structure shared intellectual property based on merit of contribution across from a package of time, liability, expertise, rights, processes, and results called impact, with a capital I as its material good. Traditional frameworks struggle to provide the granular oversight and verifiable mechanisms necessary for fair co-creation, and the entities who govern them have no financial incentive to share. How do we embrace the united paradigm that all labor co-publishes the resulting container and should be considered a deposit worthy of compound value? How do we precisely delineate ownership of a co-authored market asset? How can every individual contributing labor or insight genuinely share in the perpetual profits generated by a collective work? Without an impartial, universally accessible arbiter, these questions lead to ambiguities that hinder genuine collaboration and fuel skepticism, ultimately limiting economic potential. It is in this challenging yet opportune context that blockchain emerges as more than just a technological innovation. It reveals itself as a profound conceptual shift. From a cognitive linguistic perspective, we see blockchain as a community-maintained, spreadsheet-style notary service, a robust mechanism used to permanently sustain a network of programmable, authenticated information. This capability is, in essence, a perfect resource for co-publishing the economy as a verifiable linguistic behavior.
Okay, wait. You guys just got really good information. I want to compare that to what you all think.
Let's take a look at what she had to say.
I jumped in.
I know, I heard. I'm so happy I taught you what they were.
You did. You taught me what's up, and then I bought an ape.
Is this a gem?
I got an ape too, because I saw you on the show with people, and you said you got on MoonPay, so I went and I copied you and did the same thing.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
This is disgusting. This is disgusting. These are like, these apes are straight up trying to fucking milk their audience, dude. That's it. There's nothing. This is an ad. This is a hashtag ad.
You're deliberately committing fraud to hurt my business. And everybody knows who you are and how you move and that you do shit like that. You are knowingly uplifting an antecedent so millions of people only focus on what you're presenting from the fucking antecedent. Bloody lips, broken skull, shattered ribcage. Oh wait, those are irrelevant things I'm saying, Hassan. Those are irrelevant. Those aren't relevant. I'm not doing what you do. I'm not misusing the publishing framework that you took from a linguist and have applied it to your dog shit mission to be King Yertle on a stack of turtles. So you will not be King Yertle on a stack of turtles. You'll go back to work at TYT. That's what we're going to make you do. Nobody will take you seriously again because you are slandering a socialized information tool, a socialized property ownership mechanic. You're slandering the filing behavior that creates a socialized property. And you're doing that specifically to keep me in the fucking corner. And you need everybody in the world to keep on dehumanizing me and dehumanizing the precedent so you can keep getting away with it. But nobody fucking likes you. Your uncle doesn't like you, Hassan. Do you understand the damage that you did to Young Turks? Of course you do. Of course he does. That's why nobody there talks to him. Nobody. I don't want to keep on going back to Hassan. He's the one that put himself in the way of this information. He put himself in the fucking way. And he put his social hierarchy in the fucking way to keep a dog in the corner. And now all of the apparatus has to deal with that. They have to deal with that because it's $4 billion of fucking fraud. And a presidential election that was lost because nobody had any accurate fucking information about crypto because of fucking Hassan. And then you find out, hey, I was the guy that worked at Young Turks right before they hired him. I left behind the streaming framework for a show that he stepped into. So he has a vested interest, if he's a dog shit evil person, to keep me buried underneath everybody. Because he doesn't want to be called derivative. He doesn't want me to get credit for TYT community. I don't even want credit for TYT community. It's a stupid fucking conversation. I want credit for this. This is what I want credit for, because it's the fucking notarized precedent. Not this. But I've got a guy who came after me at Young Turks, who stepped into my publishing framework, shopping this as the fucking precedent, and telling you to hate this. Oh, I wonder fucking why. And everybody just falls for it. It's disgusting. Okay, back to information. That's why you hate it. It's his tantrum. That's why you think you hate NFTs. That's why you think you hate blockchain. That's why you don't know anything, any actual information about it. It's all here in this paper. A block, a stack of simultaneously registered user information on a public notary network, ensuring transparency and security. Okay, so it's like a stack of same-time user filings. It's actually boring. But the chain is the permanent, immutable, programmable, and impartially witnessed record of blocks, providing a reliable and transparent ledger of transactions and rights. Non-fungible token. It's just simply a file. It's a technical standard for a filing. It's a filing technical standard. It's like HTML is to a website, NFT is to a publishing title. So on the public notary service that records same-time user filings and blocks and then keeps those blocks in a chain, one type of user filing is NFT. And because NFT is unique origin, unique result filing, with fixed point, measurable distance, and impartial witness, that creates property out of whatever you publish with it. So when you publish property and then you want to transact property, you are transacting title. What are you transacting title to? What you've published. And what can further be published. So it's a publishing title. That is what it is. I'm a credentialed behavioral scientist explaining to you basic information about human behavior in collective publishing on a public notary. There's no room for politics. There's no room for opinion. This is just information. It is not registering with the wide general public because Hassan Piker is a lying piece of shit. Understand that. He has no clue what blockchain is. He doesn't care. What he cares about is making sure that my precedent is buried behind the antecedent. That's what he wants. That's his only thing. Social hierarchy. So, I go above Hassan. I have to threaten to sue Night Media, which is his handler, which is why he's on vacation right now. because they don't want to pay for his fucking crimes. It's by the way, the sticker on his crime, Night Media, $750,000 waiver of grievance. I got a team to feed over here. I got my guy Sam watching right now. We both have medical issues. We were just talking about it today. We got to get these things fixed up. Okay? So you guys want to defraud Poland Precedent? This is a notary service. A public notary service. You're defrauding Poland Precedent Collective Publishing. These guys made $4 billion from day trading publishing titles, and you refuse to talk about us. You know, in the United States, they have something called equal time. You know, in the United States, fraud by material omission is a federal market manipulation crime. Conspiracy to limit competition is a federal crime. Unreasonable restraint of trade is a federal crime. So if you are a member of the press and you are not reporting on the precedent to then shop hate over the publishing tool that we're both using to publish things because you don't like Nazi monkeys that are gambling on publishing titles in a Nazi monkey brand, you need to report accurate information to the public and tell people, hey, on an open publishing tool that anybody can use, 4chan, about look, I'm loading it right now. It's a public notary. Everybody can look at a public notary service. Let me blow it up for you so you're nice and fucking big for all the journalists out there, the people that report newsworthy information to the public. No, you don't. You design narratives for social hierarchy. That's what the fuck you do. You clowns. You should all be in prison for fraud, as far as I'm concerned, especially in the Sacramento press. Selling out my city. Okay, 5,613 people from 4chan day traded monkey pictures to the tune of $4 billion. Most of that is secondary volume, which means that that they were purchased and then sold. We've generated maybe $30,000 in 5 years. All of it purchase volume. None of it secondary. Nobody's day trading us. You can't day trade us. We're not built to day trade. We're built to co-publish because we're the precedent in co-publishing. And if Hassan Piker wasn't in the... Look, there's a couple of different things. Because this wasn't the issue. These Bored Ape people, they weren't the issue. This wasn't the issue. We're 3 weeks before on the notary. That's not the issue. I had a pretty easy time for the first year after this teaching, regardless of what the Bored Ape people did. I don't know why they keep verifying me over and over again. Anyway, nobody in Web3 or crypto seems to be on board with co-publishing. The corporations and Wall Street are on board with co-publishing, but they're trying to sneak it into their infrastructure like X and Twitter did without telling people where any of that stuff comes from. Because that means that they'd have to monetize our stuff and basically launch a whole new media studio, and that's why it's conspiracy to limit competition. It's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people participating in it. But the main people participating in it are my own community that love to transact uppity nigger. So once people look, if this just existed in the abstract without this, then I can teach science. Then I can teach from my credentials and my pole position and maybe not everybody, but enough people are listening to me that we can actually form a scientific representation of the behavior. But since I'm a black man, I'm light-skinned, I'm Afro-Indigenous, but it doesn't matter. We're in a leverage-seeking society. I've got a morbid disability, and I am a black man. I'm not self-victimizing, by the way. I'm just stating facts. And in this social fabric of the United States of America, when every single interaction that you have, 9 out of 10 or 19 out of 20, let's say it that way, 19 out of 20 social interactions that you have on a daily basis, the person that you're interacting with is looking for leverage over you to establish their own social hierarchy. And so here, they're not willing to receive information. They're going to find leverage, even if it isn't an antecedent, even if it's in even if it has nothing to fucking do with my work at all, they will find leverage in an antecedent and then use that to dismiss my humanity for their position in social leverage. And that's what keeps on getting transacted over and 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 over again. It's transacted by my own foster family. That's where it actually comes from. This uppity nigger police shit that comes from it comes from my foster dad, who's a black man, by the way. But that's where it comes from. And so that's the permission layer. It gives everybody else permission to treat me the same way, consciously or subconsciously. That's why I don't feel victimized. I'm a behavioral scientist. I just clock it. You know what I mean? I'm like, I know exactly the chemical hormones that are producing all of this behavior that are driving you to communicate this leverage-seeking need with me. I know all of it. I just want to leave. I don't want to deal with this shit. I want to get my team. What is it? I like the biblical term of the meek. Okay, I like that because I'm meek. And Sam, watching now, you know, we're in the same boat. We're meek, and the world will belong to the meek. So I'm going to gather up the meek, and we're going to co-publish something. That's what we're going to do. And I don't have a messiah complex. I don't have main character energy because I explicitly don't want to be a main character. I explicitly don't want to be seen as a messiah. That's why I'm not out here doing marketing the way everybody does marketing. I'm just trying to teach information. This is a publishing title. It's a unit of published property in our brand. It's the first one that's ever been published to the notary. And according to Flat UTC, it's April 1st at 45 minutes past midnight. In local Pacific time, this is 5:46 the previous day, March 31st. And so when I have March 31st up here, it's much easier to say we're on chain a month before Board 8. These dang Etherscan people may have gotten rid of the UTC clock changing thing. I can't find it in settings anymore. So I can't change it to local time, which is a bummer. That can't be right? Base scan. Let's see if it's the same thing on base scan. No, you're gonna catch for me. Don't catch for me. I'm a real person. They do this to me all the time. Cloudflare. Yeah, it does say UTC -7. So when I go to account settings, no, not now. Okay, I won't waste time on this. This is personal time stuff. Let's get back to, we have 6 minutes left on the read, and then I can get into the botcast for how to play.
1.1 blockchain definition. A block is a layered stack of simultaneous transactions and registrations on the notary. The chain is the encrypted chain of blocks as a receipt network. When truly decentralized, they provide public notarization to any information registered to them. Simply put, the blockchain acts as a language itself, a crucial cognitive community cement for impartial legitimacy of information, value measurement, and property ownership.
Just to give you guys an idea of what's of the supreme level of dog shit happening in the information economy. Okay, so blockchain comes out in like 2008, 2009 with Bitcoin, and that is very simply a proof of work consensus protocol, meaning that computers hash an algorithm to prove their work, and then they all provide consensus to the network. So when you see people that have their garages full of GPUs and they're all mining Bitcoin, that's what they're doing. So that's called a proof of work network. Most blockchains don't work as proof of work networks. Most of them are proof of stake networks, which means that I join a node and I put up I stake a certain amount of value to my integrity as an authenticator in that node. And then I plug one of my devices in, computer, phone, an existing device that I already have, and my staked value and my device combine to provide authenticity stamps to the transactions that I'm asked to register. It's automatic. I don't actually have to sit there and do anything. But the reason why we ask them to stake the value to authenticate transactions is because now I have a vested interest not to fuck with it. And on top of that, if I'm part of a node that's 100,000 different people across the world, why would I? Why would I mess with the record of 99,999 other people have one record and I have the one that I messed with? So if there is an outlier like that, it's investigated. And if the person legitimately messed with the record, like they're really trying to mess with it, I don't know if it's like a 3 strikes thing or if it's a 0 tolerance thing, but they lose their staked value. They're kicked out of the out of the network. So that's how the decentralized blockchain works. Every data center in AI works the exact same way, except for it's not a decentralized blockchain. So what I mean by that is they're filing the information registrations in blocks. They're keeping those in a chain. The devices and servers that maintain this information system are being built in all of our backyards without any consent, and they're just kind of bullying it through and saying China. Okay? And I'm over here being like, no. You guys are using my publishing method to publish these data centers? So if you keep on censoring and obfuscating me, then of course we can't form legal argument, right? And if my community keeps on uppity niggering me, then of course we can't form legal argument. It's not just Forest Hill, California, it's the entire body of United States press. They think that because the antecedent day traded and produced $4 billion in secondary volume, that I'm somehow subject to that as a performance standard. And now I have to achieve some sort of day trading volume to be written about. No, you fucking dog shit morons. Sorry for cussing. And Sam's like, I'm going to shut you off. Man, that's why I asked you to come on here, because I was crashing out over all this stuff, and I need conscious audience to be able to handle myself a little bit better. Okay. Like I said, data centers are recording all of our filings into blocks and in chains. They're just keeping them local on their server farms. Maybe they're all connected and sharing consensus. Who knows? And maybe they're building so many of them so they can run the consensus protocol through all these data centers, and we don't know. They're enslaving us while not informing us. And the people that do this are evil, irredeemable people. There's no redemption for them. Every good book, every religion, every scripture states, do not rob or defraud your neighbor. Do not rob or defraud your neighbor. And so when I upload a post to Instagram, and Mark Zuckerberg takes that post and he puts it into a data collection of Kamani Okira data collection. Here's his post, here's his story post, and all of these are data shards that are formed from my uploads. And then that data collection is then sold to advertisers and to it's just sold. It's just transacted sideways. So I'm being sold. I'm being enslaved and sold all of my publishing. Enslaved and sold. On my own publishing method. Oh, man. I swear it's like, if I didn't have faith in that the work is a reward of faith, oh boy, I would have necked myself a long time ago. But because I know that that's what their end game is, they're trying, like, this is what the whole thing is. If they can get me to feel so in the corner, alone, removed from society, excluded from my own fucking work, then I'll neck myself and they don't have to do anything. But it's just like, they're such cowards. They're such cowards. See, their grandpappies would have done snipe me day one. These people aren't their grandpappies? Oh, man. They're pathetic. They're trying to enslave you from their computer in their den. You know what I mean? They're trying to enslave you from their smart house. See, to them, they're good. They have been paid. They have zero needs, wants. They're not scrambling for meals like you and I are. So they don't understand that stealing our life's work, when we're talking these published data shards, this is your life's work. Every single upload is the culmination of your experiences to that point. I don't care what it is. Okay, it's the same thing. It's the same standard I have for this. This is an upload. This is an NFT on chain. This states my value as a photographer, as a photographic contributor to professional sports. This is $19 million. It does not matter. I don't think it'll ever sell. If it does sell, it'll be to Nike, Clutch, or the NBA, or maybe the Lakers. It depends on how long LeBron keeps playing and a lot of factors. I'm a little sad he's not going to retire a Laker because that diminishes the value of the shot. Not to this point. This is already a discount. But this denotes my value of photographic contribution to any professional sport. Okay, so just because this was a single moment of a snap, as a culmination of my experiences and my professional expertise that led to this moment, that's really what the value is. And so it's uploaded. It's titled as my property, unique origin, unique result property. If Nike purchases, they can put on a billboard. Fanatics purchase, they can put it on trading cards. Nike can put this on a shoebox, whatever. But now he's on the Sixers. So I got to get back courtside next season somehow, some way, and update my LeBron library because I have him on every other team. I've got him on Cleveland. I've got him on Miami. I've got him on LA. I need him on Philly. Okay, I will be begging Clutch. I'll send Rich an email every weekend. Be like, yo, split rights, split rights, split rights. I gotta own my shit. That's number one. But two, I gotta get in there. I gotta get that Philly. Maybe they'll set me up with one like this. Okay, point is, you can write a poem on Facebook that you just thought of just this instant. Okay, that poem is a culmination of your experiences to this point in time. You've uploaded it. It's a published result. If it's monetized, it needs to pay you. It may not be a $19 million position of monetization. That's okay. That's where merit comes into the market. Let's look at a cheap one. I got a boogie in here for way less. And then while you're here, metamask.io/download HTTPS. There's the MetaMask download link. So if you want one of my NBA shots for an affordable entry point, here's one for $282. This is for sometimes I get watchers back, Sam. So, and then I hope some of them will be compassionate about the fact that I have to drain my own intestines. Well, I should go grab a plate from my client's spot.
This linguistic lens allows us to reimagine economic interactions not merely as transactions, but as acts of publishing on a shared, notarized ledger. Crucially, by fostering genuine recognition, transparency, and equity in collaborative creation, this approach cultivates something far more profound: a collective sense of Xigen, the state of deserving to exist, a shared feeling of gratitude for existing as a self-awareness within a co-created economic reality. We are, quite literally, co-publishing intellectual property as community gardens, breaking down monolithic assets into modular impact puzzles, or Lego-style kits of value that can be collectively built and maintained. This article introduces a bespoke tokenomics framework that operationalizes this vision. By transforming traditionally singular intellectual property containers into modular, co-publishable units of titled property via digital titles, NFTs, our impact puzzles model ensures that every contribution to a wider economic container is verifiably recognized. This system provides direct pathways to verifiable ownership, perpetual creator equity, transparent crowdfunding, and robust content distribution. We argue that this notarized, tokenomics-driven approach directly resolves the fundamental impact puzzles inherent in collaborative economic endeavors by ensuring permanent provenance, fostering genuine community engagement through mechanisms like DAOs, and establishing clear, equitable value distribution. Our model offers a significant advancement in the transparent and equitable generation of collective economic value. All scales of economic collaboration can and should be measured as an impact puzzle in human linguistic behavior, ultimately contributing to the collective state of Xigen. The subsequent sections of this paper will delve deeper, beginning with a comprehensive literature review contextualizing our approach within existing discourse on blockchain, tokenomics, intellectual property, and cognitive science. science. We will then elaborate on our conceptual framework, followed by a detailed analysis of how our tokenomic system explicitly addresses each identified impact puzzle in the co-published economy. Finally, we will discuss the broader implications and future directions for this transformative paradigm. 2. Core
I love this
thesis.
part.
Okira's impact theory of value. Value is impact. Impact.
This is my favorite thing I've ever done in my in the field of linguistics. This framework here. So to create impact as a deposit into the publication of a property. So that forms impact as a titled material good with capital I. It's time, liability, and expertise. So you apply time, you're applying liability for the result, and you're applying your expertise to create the result into rights to create the result, the process of creating the result, and the result itself. So it's time, liability, expertise, rights, process, results. Totality, impact, capital I, material good. That's what you deposit when in anything. If I work at McDonald's, I'm depositing impact into the brand property of McDonald's. So my impact, if the brand property at McDonald's, there's one down the street here, let's just say it's McDonald's 10,000. And if they measured their property as annual containers of 100,000 pieces, then quarterly they have 2,500 pieces of publishing they could distribute to their staff. And so now they have a small measurement of property they can distribute every quarter for quarterly residuals. And they know everybody's time, liability, and expertise. They can departmentalize the liability and expertise, and they can measure the time. So if I end up with 20, 30 publishing titles, 40 at the end of the quarter, and my coworker has 20 because they worked less, and maybe I'm a manager and they're just the drive-through person. Doesn't matter. We're both publishing through our deposits of impact the brand strength of McDonald's number 10,000. So if McDonald's number 10,000 made $20,000 in profit at the end of Q1, they're going to take 20% of that profit, $2,000, and distribute it to the team. 25 people. I don't know. It depends on how busy the McDonald's is. The one down here probably only has 16, 20 people. So if 20 people are sharing $2,000, it's a $100 bonus. That ain't bad for 3 months. Now, maybe in some places McDonald's are making $20,000 a quarter. That seems like a really low estimate and not really like a profitable business. It's sustainable for a fast food joint. But some of these guys are cleaning up $200,000 a quarter. And so now that all of a sudden that $100 residual moves up to $1,000. And now the social hierarchy of working at McDonald's ain't so bad because they get a good base pay. They do. They get I think it's 20 something. The one down here is 25 an hour. If I didn't have to drain my intestines and I could promise a 4-hour shift without having any complications, I might go do it. I don't want to publish McDonald's, but shit, I need to pay my bills. And I don't want to have my bills coming from my community. But so the base is good. They pay a good base, and then now all of a sudden you're getting an extra $350 a month from publishing residuals. The store ain't gonna miss $10,000 off of $200,000 profit. You know what I mean? That's what we're talking about. It's not gonna miss $20,000 off the $200,000 profit. So the rest of it can go to the shareholders. The rest of it can go to the franchise owner. All of that. You're taking a small percentage of the performance, regardless of what it is, and issuing it to the publishers of the performance, instead of treating labor as an enslaved commodity at a flat rate. And I got to give credit to McDonald's because their flat rate is better than most people right now. I'll be honest. It's better than a lot of people. Ooh, I need to... My own economy is pressed on the day. I have an hour to make about $30. That's why I stream. Oh, man. Don't you, my one viewer friend out there, make that your issue. We are in the same economic boat. You might have access to a monthly income that I don't, because my Social Security isn't on yet. But a lawyer and I are working on that. Yes, I finally got a lawyer on Social Security. People, y'all don't know. This hurts so much. Cut here to here. I've been cut over here twice. Oh, actually, this one has three. This is 3 times on this side. Been cut over here one time, and then if you go low enough, you can see the one that goes all the way across. And so with that system is a manual function system. The entire right side is paralyzed, and I have to drain my own intestines. If I don't, I can get sepsis and die rather quickly. The pain just increases and increases and increases till you can't bear it, and it could end up in a rupture or a twist. And if I get ruptured or twist, then my bloodstream will become septic, my brain will swell, and really with it, a really bad day could have me from totally okay to dead in 15 minutes. So that's what I live with. If I take a bad step off the curb and I twist my intestines because of a bad step off the curb, and now all of a sudden I have septic blood and I have a brain swell. Every gnarly headache I get, I'm scared for my fucking life, okay? Yeah, let's go work a wage job. Let's go plug that into a time scheduled obligation. And then when nature calls and I have to go down for 2 hours, 3 hours to drain, exit, drain, exit, drain, and exit. Yeah, let's go work at Walmart. My life is so nuts right now. Okay. Impact can be titled and measured as property using a hard-capped, deed-defined pool of publishing titles that grant titled property fractions in a shared work, co-owned and co-published by a creator, team, and customer. Oh, no shit. That's cool. Ryan Gosling has been officially cast as Ghost Rider in the MCU. I'm 36 years old and still getting excited about MCU. I'm just embracing the millennial cringe. We built the concept of cringe. Like, that's our thing. We need to just embrace it. That's like, it's our clay. Cringe is our clay. Nobody will ever do cringe like millennials. Mm-mm. The entire 2000s of the internet was as cringe as you could possibly get. Let me stay focused.
Is time plus ability plus expertise multiplied by rights plus process plus results. Impact can be titled and measured as a hard-capped, deed-defined pool of publishing titles that grant titled property fractions in a shared work, co-owned and co-published by creator, team, and customer. Intellectual property is a community garden. It's a puzzle. It's a tandem bike. We grow it together. We own it together. We publish it together on a public notary service. This framework, called Impact Puzzles on the LMO Structure for Tokenomics, is the first complete economic language for turning collaborative creative labor into fractional, verifiable perpetual property using blockchain as a public notary. We call it the Scalable Impact Puzzle, pronounced SIP. You drink from what you specifically pour. 1.2 important background. Adam Smith's labor theory of value. Labor is the fundamental source of value. It is the effort and skill applied over time that creates wealth and economic growth. The market demand and scarcity of resources further influence the value derived from labor. This theory, known as the labor theory of value, posits that the value of a good or service is determined by the amount of labor required to produce it. This includes not only the physical effort, but also the time and skill invested, as well as the market conditions that affect demand and supply. By understanding labor as the core of value creation, we can appreciate how economic systems function and how wealth is generated through human effort and ingenuity. 3. The metaphors. 3.1 The community garden. Intellectual property is a living garden. The publishing title is a plot of land. Garden element. Publishing title equivalent. Soil. The prepared property from the merchant. The root IP. Fertile and permanent.
I don't need this to... We don't want to read... This is fine. These are just metaphors that I put in the paper to help people bring it all together. The last bit is probably the proof of labor system, which is... down here, use case. This is pretty cool, but we'll do a different stream on proof of labor. This is such a complicated... This is how you actually measure the 20% of labor and of hired labor in any published brand, product, service, experience, distributed asset, etc. So in show business, this my algorithm is built for show business. It can easily be adjusted to any any standard business where you move the half-day block from 6 hours to maybe 5. I don't want to talk about this because I, one, have to go make a run to get some food, and then two, I want this to be playing. Maybe I should do it on Chrome so they can get the subtitles up. Okay, so this is bad, everybody. This is bad unless you're consciously opting in to publishing these. If you're consciously opting in to contributing data shards to a data collection, and that's how you would like to be published into the market, then that's fine. That's an okay thing. You're conscious and you're knowledgeable of what your published results are doing. But for corporations to just force you into being a contributor of data shards into a data collection, when the actual precedent is that you're a co-publishing owner of a publishing title and a shared property, that's actual dog shit. That's actual human enslavement. So they've enslaved me first, and I feel a special type of way about that. You don't enslave my published work and then bastardize it, change the language, and then use it to enslave everybody else. So my work is a publishing methodology. It's a publishing structure. It's a publishing framework. They, meaning corporations, greedy, fiduciary obligated people, slavers, have taken that publishing methodology, bastardized it, switched it around, and are now publishing their data centers with it. They didn't monetize me at all. They didn't monetize me at all. They left me on the side of the road, said, hey, nigger, thank you. And then they set up the Bored Ape thing, and it couldn't have worked better for them. They couldn't have imagined. They couldn't have imagined that all of my friends would sit there and weigh my work versus 4chan, and then uplift 4chan over me, and then decide that I don't matter. What? I shouldn't even be in the conversation with the 4chan people. They're the antecedent. They're the antecedent, however you want the word said. The antecedent. It sounds fancier. I like antecedent. Okay, I gotta go run and grab a plate. So let's...
Imagine for a second that you're just you're sitting there watching a 1939 professional basketball game.
Right, vintage era.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You're in these creaky wooden bleachers. The air smells like, I don't know, stale popcorn, cigar smoke, floor wax, the whole vibe.
Classic.
And down on the hardwood, the star player for the Manhattan Pantaloons breaks toward the hoop. He goes up for a dunk, but midway through the air, right at the apex of his jump, he hallucinates a massive, fire-breathing Pegasus swooping down from the rafters.
As one does in 1939.
Right. The referee blows the whistle. Total chaos ensues. The crowd goes wild. Now, snap back to reality. You were sitting on your couch in the present day. You check your phone, and you realize you just got paid like roughly $1,400 because you were the one who wrote that hallucination into existence.
Yeah.
You filmed it, and a television network put it in their actual show.
It completely shatters the traditional barrier between the audience and the screen. It's wild.
It really does. Because usually when we talk about watching television, there is this inescapable expectation of passive consumption.
Right, you just sit there.
Exactly. It's like going to a restaurant. You sit down, someone hands you a menu, you point at what you want, and the kitchen does literally all the work. The network hands you a finished, polished meal and says, here, eat this. Consumers consume, creators create, and there is a giant velvet rope between the two.
And we've been conditioned for decades to accept that one-directional relationship. I mean, we like our media curated, we like it delivered with high production value and zero heavy lifting on our part.
Right.
But what you just described with Pegasus, that represents a total deconstruction of that model.
Which is exactly why we are venturing into some truly uncharted, just wild territory for today's deep dive. We are breaking down the mechanics, the economics, and the sheer narrative chaos of what has to be the most ambitious collaborative storytelling experiment ever attempted.
Without a doubt.
I'll be right back,
We are
y'all.
talking about Press Pass All Access Season 1. And I want to be clear right out of the gate with you, the listener. We aren't just analyzing some quirky indie game here. We are looking at a system where the audience literally buys the publishing rights to a fictional universe, role plays the history of that universe, and then turns their own role play sessions into the actual archival footage used to make a monetized television show.
A sport punk mockumentary sitcom, to be precise.
Yes.
And the sheer scale of the infrastructure required to make this function is just staggering. The creator and showrunner, Kimani Okiera, has built something that sits at this crazy intersection of tabletop role player, Hollywood television production, and decentralized finance.
It's so unique.
The community lovingly refers to it as the lore game, or the P-plug, which is the press pass lore game.
The P-plug. It sounds like something you'd find in a, I don't know, a vintage sci-fi novel.
Yeah, it does.
But it is very real.
Yeah.
And it is a massive puzzle. So today, our mission is to take you step by step through this labyrinth. We're going to look at how you go from being a spectator, just passively scrolling through a streaming app, to stepping onto the digital court as a literal co-publisher. And we're starting in the genesis year of this universe, which is 1939. The original teams of the Basketball Syndicate of America, or the BSFA.
It's a brilliant setting because 1939 provides a completely blank slate. You have vintage aesthetics, massive egos, these small-town markets fighting for relevance, and absolutely no pre-existing sports history to adhere to. You are building the foundation of a global sports ecosystem entirely from scratch.
Okay, but before I can lace up my vintage high tops and shoot what the game calls a three-bouchette, and believe me, we're definitely going to dissect the physics of a three-bouchette later. I need to actually get into the game.
Yeah.
I need a contract. I need skin in the game. So if I'm listening to this right now and I want to join the canon, where do I even start? How do I get my foot in the door of the front office?
So the very first step requires you to interact with the public notary. And in the context of this specific infrastructure, the public notary is the blockchain.
All right, let's pause right there.
I know.
Because I know the moment you say the word blockchain, half the audience might just tense up.
They absolutely will.
So let's clarify this immediately. We are strictly looking at this technology as a decentralized notary public. We are talking about acquiring publishing titles or intellectual property tokens.
Yes.
This has absolutely nothing to do with speculative day trading, meme coins, or volatile crypto gambling.
Okay.
We are looking at the blockchain purely as an administrative backend.
Right. That distinction is paramount. You are not buying a token hoping it skyrockets to the moon so you can buy a Lamborghini.
Right.
You are buying a digital deed to a piece of intellectual property. Let Me Out Tile Productions, the studio behind this, utilizes a self-custody Ethereum wallet. They suggest tools like Rainbow or MetaMask, though players can, do their own research and choose their preferred interface. But you have to think of this wallet not as a bank account, but as a digital identity card and a secure vault for your intellectual property rights.
So it's essentially my ID badge that lets me into the building.
Precisely. And that ID badge interacts with what the system calls the smart treasury. To actually participate and claim your spot in the lore, you have to purchase a piece of this fractionalized property on the open market.
Let's talk about that fractionalization because the numbers here are incredibly specific. When the showrunner decided to split up the ownership of season 1, he didn't just slice it into a nice round million pieces. How many pieces of this puzzle actually exist?
There is a hard cap of exactly 5,309,160 equal parts.
Wow.
That is all there will ever be for season 1.
Over 5.3 million. And whenever I see a highly specific, seemingly arbitrary number like 5,309,160 in a project this meticulously designed, my alarm bells just go off.
Oh, for sure.
Why that exact number? Is it an area code? Is it a date? Is it some sort of anagram hidden in the creator's lore?
I mean, it is entirely possible that it's an Easter egg, right? Like a mathematical cipher baked into the sport's history, or perhaps a geographic coordinate relevant to the sport punk universe.
Mm-hmm.
The creator is known for layering mysteries like that.
He really is.
But mechanically, out of those 5.3 million parts, the vast majority are held in the treasury or by the studio itself.
Right.
For you, the new collaborator coming in, there are two primary entry points available on the market. You have version 1 tokens and version 2 tokens.
Okay, so I've got my wallet set up. I'm looking at the market. What is the fundamental difference between holding a V1 and holding a V2? Like, walk me through the utility there.
It really comes down to access and scarcity. Let's start with V1. There are exactly 530,000 V1 tokens available.
Got it.
If you hold one of these, it grants you the right to create an ecosystem professional.
Which means what exactly?
This encompasses media members, beat writers, team staff, scouts, hot dog vendors, medical personnel.
Okay.
And it also allows you to create a notable fan.
So V1 is essentially the world-building tier. You are the ecosystem surrounding the sport.
Exactly.
You're the screaming superfan in the front row with his face painted, or the cynical radio broadcaster chain smoking up in the press box.
Yes, you provide the context and the atmosphere. The V2 tokens, however, are a completely different story. They are incredibly rare. Out of the 5.3 million total supply, there are only 916 V2 tokens in existence.
116. That is practically microscopic.
It is. And because of that extreme rarity, holding a V2 token grants you the ultimate right. You get to claim or create a literal syndicate player or a team head coach.
Wow. So if I want to actually be on the hardwood, calling the plays, arguing with the referee, or taking the game-winning shot, I absolutely need that V2 token.
You do.
But let's ground this in reality for a second. If I want to buy a V1 token today and just be a beat writer for a team, what is that going to cost me? Is this like prohibitively expensive?
Not currently, no. The market conditions are actually quite accessible right now. A current open market value for a V1 piece is roughly $27,
Okay.
which translates to about 0.0091 Ethereum, depending on the day. That's actually down from its initial valuation, which sat around $50 to $75.
So for the price of what, 2 movie tickets and a popcorn, I can essentially buy a permanent seat in a writer's room for a television show. That is wild.
It's a huge shift in access.
It really is. But let's dig into the why of this financial structure, because this is where my mind was truly blown when I was going through our source material.
Yeah, the LMO structure.
Exactly, the LMO structure for tokenomics and the smart treasury. I really want to contrast this with traditional Hollywood accounting, which is basically an institutionalized magic trick.
That's a good way to put it.
You know, these massive blockbuster movies that make $1 billion at the global box office, yet somehow, on paper, they never turn in that profit. The studio tells the writers, the actors, the VFX artists, sorry, after we paid our own distribution arms and deducted marketing funds, we are actually in the red. No residuals for you.
It's an incredibly opaque system, and it's designed specifically to protect the studio's bottom line by hiding revenue behind armies of lawyers and impenetrable spreadsheets.
Right.
But this project utilizes the blockchain to fundamentally dismantle that opacity.
And that's the key.
It is. The infrastructure is built on-chain to strictly and transparently enforce performance splits. There is no human accountant deciding if a project is profitable. The smart treasury automates the revenue distribution the absolute second a dollar enters the ecosystem.
And the splits are hard-coded into the contract, right? Walk me through how the pie is actually sliced here.
It's a very specific breakdown. 35% goes to Let Me Out Productions to handle administration, legal liability, and platform maintenance. 30% goes directly to creator and showrunner Kimani Okiera. 20% goes to the hired collaborators, and this is the pool for you, the audience members, the people playing the game and submitting the content.
Okay.
And finally, 5% goes to property-relevant unions and guilds.
Wait, hold on. I have to push back on this because my brain is breaking a little bit here.
I figured it might.
You're telling me that a decentralized Web3 platform, an environment that is historically championed by, techno-libertarians, specifically because it avoids organized institutions, has hard-coded a 5% payout to traditional Hollywood labor unions.
Yes.
How does a smart contract even pay SAG-AFTRA or the Writers Guild?
It is a remarkable philosophical bridge. The system simply doesn't care about the ideological baggage of Web3. It just uses the tech as a neutral tool. If a specific guild or union is relevant to the property and fulfills their representative assignments, meaning they have an established, verified wallet address to receive funds on behalf of their members working on the project, the smart contract automatically routes their 5% split to them.
That is insane.
If a piece of digital merchandise sells for $10, 50 cents is instantaneously routed to the guild's treasury. It requires 0 invoices, 0 payroll departments, and 0 audits.
That is genuinely revolutionary. It's collective bargaining enforced by code.
It really is.
But let's bring it back to the individual player. Let's say I drop my $27, I buy a V1 publishing title, I create a character, I role play for 2 months, and then life just gets busy. I have a kid, I get a new job, and I just get bored. I decide to sell my token on the secondary market to someone else. Does my character just vanish from the universe like Marty McFly fading from a photograph?
No.
What happens to the history I built?
This is a brilliant nuance in how they handle property rights versus narrative integrity. No, your character does not vanish. The rules state that the right to register a character permanently expires once a token is used.
No.
Think of it like punching ticket at a train station. The token was your blank ticket. You wrote your character's name on it and the conductor punched it. That character is now permanently embedded in the lore, what the game calls story cement. The new buyer cannot delete your character or rename them.
Okay, so the universe's history is protected. But then why would anyone buy my used punched ticket?
Because the token has a secondary utility. While the right to create a character is spent, the right to submit archival content, the digital videos and memes that actually earn those bounty payouts we mentioned earlier, that right resets. If you sell your token to a new owner for at least the original mint price on the open market, the new owner can now use that token to submit fresh content based on the established lore.
So it's like passing a camera to the next person in the crowd.
Exactly.
The crowd remains the same, the game on the court remains the same, but a new person gets to start filming and monetizing the footage. It keeps the economy vibrant without destroying the narrative continuity.
It incentivizes a healthy secondary market while fiercely protecting the canon.
Okay, so I've got my self-custody wallet, I've secured my V1 token, and I am officially a co-publisher. I have the keys to the arena. But the arena is empty until I step into it. Who am I going to be?
Right, time to build the persona.
Exactly. This brings us to the actual creative process. And let me tell you, as someone who plays a lot of role-playing games, this is not just picking a cool name and a jersey number. This is deep psychological mapping.
It is an incredibly rigorous process. Once you own your publishing title, you use it to fill out the official character registration form. And the engine of this persona relies on a staggering 60-facet character sheet.
60 facets. I'm pretty sure I don't even have 60 distinct personality traits in real life.
Most people don't.
If you asked me to sit down and write a backstory covering 60 physical, emotional, and social parameters for a 1939 bench warmer, I would get writer's block in 10 minutes. Is there any help for a new player? Or do you need a master's degree in creative writing to play this game?
You do not, because the system is actually quite pragmatic about modern technology. The guidelines explicitly permit players to use artificial intelligence like large language models to help brainstorm backstories, frame concepts, and edit the formatting of their registration.
But there are guardrails, right? I can't just have a bot generate 1,000 characters a day.
Very strict guardrails. The AI use is strictly limited to framing, editing, and conceptual outlining. Furthermore, if you use AI to generate concept art for your character's face or their teen gear, the rules clearly mandate that all AI art must eventually be replaced by human-created art as the universe develops.
Which I love, because the source material is so self-aware about this. They specifically note that in the beta phase, all the 1939 original team logos were drawn by the showrunner, Kimani, and he openly admits he is a terrible artist.
Yes, he's very upfront about it.
He's basically saying, look, my drawing of a Boston potato might look like a lumpy brown circle drawn in Microsoft Paint, but it has a human soul. And that is our baseline. It keeps the project grounded in human imperfection.
It prevents the universe from feeling sterile and machine-generated.
Right.
So let's look at how you actually allocate these stats. The character tree is divided into 3 distinct branches, and each branch contains 20 facets, adding up to your 60 total. The branches are clout, skill, and sexagen.
Now, clout and skill make intuitive sense to me. Clout is your social capital, your reputation, your media savvy. Skill is your actual physical or professional ability. You know, can you hit a jump shot? Can you write a compelling newspaper article? Can you tape up a sprained ankle?
Exactly.
But sexagen, X-Y-G-E-N, what on earth is sexagen?
Sexagen is really the philosophical core of the game. It's a play on the word oxytocin, which is the hormone in the human brain associated with social bonding, empathy, and trust. The Seigen branch tracks your character's relational, emotional, and spiritual development within the fictional world. It measures how well you connect with others, your resilience, your authenticity.
So it's literally a statistical measurement of empathy. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
So I have these 60 traits spread across clout, skill, and sexagen. How do I figure out what level they are? Do I roll dice?
No, the baseline is totally egalitarian. Every single character, regardless of whether they are a rookie water boy or a seasoned, wealthy franchise owner, starts with all 60 facets at level 1.
Okay.
You are then given a pool of 20 extra levels for each of the 3 branches to distribute however you choose.
Let me do the math on that. 60 base levels plus 60 distributed levels, since it's 20 per branch. That means every single newly minted character starts at a total overall level of exactly 120.
Correct. Level 120 is the absolute floor. You are a beginner in this universe. But through active role play and participating in the story, your character can eventually climb all the way to a maximum overall level of 1,553.
Wow.
And a vital rule here is that you can only gain levels. You never lose them. There is no stat degradation.
Over 1,500 levels.
Yeah.
You could play this game for a decade and still be growing. And how you choose to distribute those first 20 bonus levels in each branch is critical, right? Because the mathematical averages of those branches actually dictate your character's hard mechanics in the world.
They absolutely do.
Let's say you were lucky enough to grab a V2 token and you make a syndicate player. The game looks at your clout branch average, and that number determines your player class. It looks at your skill average to determine your play style. And it uses your sexagen average to dictate your actual position on the court.
It's a highly elegant, unified mathematical system. Because if I am holding a V1 token and I create a notable fan, the engine uses those exact same branch averages to determine completely different real-world traits.
Oh, really?
Yes. For a fan, those averages dictate your fan commitment level. So are you a casual watcher or a season ticket fanatic and your wealth tier?
That's brilliant. It scales perfectly whether you are the star point guard or the guy selling peanuts in Section 402.
Exactly.
But let's be honest, stats are just numbers on a page. How your character actually behaves in a crisis is what makes a story interesting. And that brings us to the behavioral matrix, the 7x7 alignment chart.
Right, because standard tabletop games usually rely on a very simple alignment grid, like good versus evil or lawful versus chaotic. Press Pass replaces that with a much more nuanced psychological grid. It combines 7 core motives with 7 core morals, resulting in 49 highly specific behavioral profiles.
And these are tailored specifically for a high-drama, ego-driven sports media environment. Let's run through the 7 motives first. We have lawful, harmonious, performative, authentic, contrarian, chaotic, and ignorant.
A performative motive means the character makes decisions based entirely on optics. They care about their image, the cameras, and their brand above the actual truth. A contrarian motive dictates that the character will actively seek to oppose the group consensus, simply for the sake of friction, even if they secretly agree with the group.
We all know that guy on sports debate shows.
Oh, absolutely.
The professional contrarian who just wants to yell. But the one that really stood out to me was ignorant. Having ignorance as a core playable motive is brilliant. It means the character actively avoids learning new information, acts on impulse, and genuinely doesn't think about the consequences. Imagine role-playing an ignorant sports talk radio caller.
It would be incredibly fun. And you take one of those 7 motives and cross it with one of the 7 morals, which are good, innocence, formal, neutral, sleaze, arrogance, and evil.
Formal's an interesting one.
It is. A formal moral implies a strict, almost rigid adherence to etiquette, tradition, and unspoken rules. They aren't necessarily good, but they respect the chain of command. Contrast that with sleaze, which defines a character who is purely opportunistic, willing to cut any corner or backstab any ally to get an advantage.
Okay, let's paint a picture for the listener. Let's use a specific example provided in the source material to show how this actually plays out. The text highlights a character named Eva Mary Jean. She is a syndicate player for the 1939 Manhattan Pantaloons. Her position is what they call off-pine, which is 1939 sport punk slang for coming off the pine bench, so a substitute, and she plays shooting guard. Her alignment is harmonious neutral. How does Eva operate in a locker room?
Well, we can deduce her exact behavioral patterns. The harmonious motive tells us that Eva seeks cohesion. She will actively cooperate with the group mentality to avoid creating friction. She isn't going to challenge the coach publicly or start fights with the media.
She is the ultimate glue guy in the locker room. Doesn't rock the boat, just happy to be there.
But we have to factor in the neutral moral. Neutrality in the system means she doesn't possess a strong inclination toward either altruism or malice. She prioritizes her own energy balance and self-interest.
Okay.
The rule of thumb for a neutral character is that they will act with regard for others, but only if it doesn't significantly inconvenience them.
So let's put Eva in a scenario. It's the 4th quarter. The star player of the Pantaloons is an absolute ball hog, and she demands that Eva pass her the ball every single time they cross half court. Eva will do it without complaining, just to keep the peace. That's the harmonious part kicking in.
Yes, but let's say after the game, the coach asks Eva to stay 3 hours late in the gym to help scrub the floors because the janitorial staff quit.
Right.
A good or innocent character might do it, but Eva is neutral. Scrubbing floors for 3 hours heavily disrupts her internal energy balance and inconveniences her. She will politely but firmly decline and go home.
It provides such a clear framework for improv. But here's where I have to push back. I am looking at the scale of this. You have up to 300 of these highly specific, often conflicting characters crammed into a single chapter. What happens when an ignorant sleaze notable fan who had too many beers in the front row interacts with an authentic formal head coach on the sidelines? This isn't a cooperative dungeon crawl where everyone is trying to slay the dragon together. This is a powder keg. Tempers are going to flare.
They absolutely will, and the system is engineered to encourage that exact friction.
Really?
The game doesn't want you to hold hands and sing songs. When that ignorant sleaze fan inevitably throws a half-eaten hot dog at the authentic formal coach, the system leans into the chaos. This is the primary engine of drama in the universe.
Which brings us to the combat system of the lore game. If I throw a hot dog at you, how do we settle the dispute? Do we just shout at each other over microphone until somebody gives up?
No, you engage in what the system officially calls a conflict interaction. Conflict interactions are the fundamental mechanism for driving the story forward and resolving disputes. And what is most intriguing is the extremely low threshold required to trigger one. The rules state that a conflict is triggered the moment 2 or more characters disagree on literally anything.
Anything. Like, we could be standing by the team bus arguing over whether the Gatorade in the cooler should be red or blue, and boom, we are in a combat scenario.
Precisely. Disagreement is combat. Furthermore, a conflict is automatically triggered if any player exhibits SRP, self-righteous prescriptivism.
Okay, I love that term. Self-righteous prescriptivism. Give me an example of what that actually looks like in a game.
We've all encountered this type of player in a gaming group. It's the person who tries to act as the unofficial dictator of the narrative. If you declare that your character is feeling sad today, the SRP player will interrupt and say, actually, your character wouldn't be sad because it's sunny outside and you should act like this instead.
Oh, I hate that.
Right. They try to prescribe how other people are allowed to play. In Press Pass, if you exhibit SRP, you instantly trigger a conflict interaction against the person you are trying to control.
It's an anti-jerk mechanic. I love it. It's a system designed to instantly penalize players who tried to dictate the fun for everyone else. If you try to be a control freak, you force a fight, and the dice might just humble you. So let's walk through the actual math of the fight. How does it work? We aren't rolling a standard 20-sided die like in Dungeons & Dragons.
No, you are utilizing your specific character facets. When a conflict happens, everyone present in the room, which the game calls a story bead, immediately pauses the role play to hold a vote. They assess the nature of the argument and vote on which of the 60 character facets is the most applicable to the situation.
Okay, let's role play this. Let's say we were in a 1939 diner. I am a rookie point guard. You are a cynical sports journalist. I accidentally spill coffee on your notepad, ruining your article. You start yelling at me. I yell back that it was an accident. The room stops. What are they voting on?
The room evaluates the context. They might vote that this is a test of agility, arguing the conflict centers on whether you should have been quick enough to catch the mug. Or they might vote that this is a test of charisma, focusing on whether I can verbally dress you down in front of the entire diner. Let's say the room votes for ego. Ego becomes the fulcrum facet. The 3 facets that receive the next highest number of votes become the sideline facets.
Okay, the fulcrum facet is locked in as ego. What do we do now?
Now, both of us open a random number generator. We do not roll a standard 1 to 100. We roll a number capped at our character's exact level in that specific fulcrum facet. So, if my ego facet is level 45, I generate a random number between 1 and 45.
And if I am a humble rookie, maybe my ego is only a 12. So I am rolling a random number between 1 and 12. I am at a massive statistical disadvantage.
You are. However, the system implements a safety floor to protect absolute beginners from being completely shut out. Any facet level that is between 1 and 5 always receives a minimum level 5 cap. You will always have at least a 1 in 5 chance to roll a 5, no matter how low your stats are.
That's somewhat comforting.
It's a straight roll. No complex multipliers, no situational modifiers. The highest absolute number generated wins the conflict.
But wait, I'm a rookie. I know my ego is only at 12. I know I'm probably going to lose to your 45. But I have teammates in this diner. Do I have to fight this battle alone?
You do not. The game heavily incentivizes teaming up through a system called factions. Up to 5 characters can choose to combine their levels and fight as a single unit. If your teammates see you struggling in this argument, they can choose to vouch for you.
But there is a massive strategic trade-off here, isn't there? The rules are very clear. You can vouch for someone, or you can vote in the initial poll to decide what the fulcrum facet will be. You cannot do both.
It creates a brilliant tactical dilemma. You have to choose between influencing the arena of the fight or influencing the power of the fighters. If you vote to ensure the fight is based on agility rather than ego, you cannot physically help me roll the dice.
Interesting.
If you abstain from voting, so you can vouch for me, you add your exact level cap in the fulcrum facet to my roll. If 5 people all vouch for each other, their combined level cap could be enormous. You can have up to 5 different factions participating in a single conflict interaction, turning it into a massive, multi-sided debate.
Okay, but if I'm a troll, I could just form a permanent faction with my 4 best friends. We never vote. We just always vouch for each other, combining our stats to create an unstoppable Voltron of high rolls, and we just steamroll every single argument in the entire chapter. How does the game stop that?
The showrunner anticipated the exact exploit. He instituted a brilliant anti-spam mechanic known as the burnout rule.
The burnout rule.
Yes. If you vouch for someone, you expend a massive amount of social and emotional capital. Therefore, you cannot vouch for anyone again for the next 3 consecutive conflict interactions. You are essentially fatigued.
You blew all your political capital on the coffee spill.
Yeah.
Now you have to sit on the bench and catch your breath while the next 3 arguments happen without your support.
Exactly. Furthermore, there is a penalty for being overly aggressive. Any single character who actively triggers 3 conflict interactions in a row must sit out the next 2 entirely.
So it enforces a natural pacing.
Mm-hmm.
It prevents a loud, aggressive player from monopolizing the microphone and forcing everyone into constant combat.
Forced pacing. And while we are talking about combat, we absolutely have to talk about the vocabulary of war in this game because the slang is hilarious and so perfectly suited to the internet age. Let's say my ego cap is 12. I roll my random number generator, and against all odds, I roll perfect 12. I hit my mathematical maximum. What is that called? In the parlance of the lore game, rolling your absolute maximum is called a KPSL.
A cap slap. It is so disrespectful. And conversely, let's say you, with your massive level 45 ego, get overconfident. You roll your generator and you roll a 1.
That is referred to as a crit flop.
A crit flop. I am picturing the scene in the diner. You are this veteran journalist. You stand up, you puff out your chest, you start to deliver this devastating, eloquent insult to ruin my career, and you trip over a chair and spill a second cup of coffee on yourself. You critically flopped.
Exactly.
But what if we both roll a 10? What happens in a tie?
Ties are settled in an event officially designated as a SSLA F-flop face-off.
It sounds like a 1990s Nickelodeon game show.
It operates a bit like one, honestly. In a slap-flop face-off, all tied parties abandon their specialized level caps. Everyone involved simply rolls a generator from 1 to 5 repeatedly in a sudden death shootout until a clear, singular winner emerges. It is pure, chaotic chance.
Okay, the dice have settled. The slap-flop face-off is over. I won. The rookie beat the journalist. What do I actually get for winning?
Mechanically, the winning character, or every member of a winning faction, gets to choose one of those 3 sideline facets we mentioned earlier.
Oh, the runner-up categories.
Yes. You select one, and you permanently add +1 to your character's level in that facet. That is the slow, granular method by which you level up your character from that base 120 all the way toward the 1553 ceiling.
So my character actually learns and grows from their argument. But narratively, what do I win? Do I get to say that I punch you in the face and you die?
No, and this is where we reach the most critical constraint in the entire lore game. Narratively, the winner earns the right to dictate the immediate direction of the lore. They get to explain to the room why they won the argument, but they absolutely cannot alter story cement.
Story cement. Let's unpack this, because this is basically the golden rule of improv comedy written into constitutional law.
It is the mandatory yes and environment. Story cement refers to any immutable facts that have already been established in the canon. This includes official game scores, playoff seedings, team names, geographic locations, or any lore that was definitively recorded in a previous roleplay session.
So if the official schedule dictates that the Manhattan Pantaloons lost their game last night 102-98, a conflict interaction cannot change that score. Even if I roll a massive KPSL in an argument with the coach, I can't say, actually, my character hit a buzzer beater and we won.
Correct. You cannot bend reality to serve your ego. You must
Yes.
and the reality of the loss. However, winning the conflict interaction gives you the power to dictate why you lost.
Oh, I see.
You could establish that you lost because the referee was bribed by the mob, or you could establish that the team lost because the coach gave a terrible halftime speech that demoralized everyone. You control the context, but the story cement remains unyielding.
It creates such a brilliant collaborative environment. You are forced to build laterally on top of each other's ideas rather than constantly trying to overwrite each other to be the main character. Okay, so I have my character, I understand my behavioral alignment, and I know how to throw down in a slap-flop face-off to defend my narrative context. But practically speaking, where do I actually go to do this? Am I just yelling into the void on Twitter? Where is the arena?
The macro structure of the game is organized into discrete units called lore chapters. When you initially register your character using your publishing title, you must select a specific season and a specific franchise. As we mentioned, for this active beta phase, we are exclusively operating in the 1939 season.
Genesis era.
Right, and each lore chapter is strictly structurally capped at accommodating exactly 300 characters.
So if I sign up for the 1939 Boston Potatoes chapter, there are exactly 300 human beings role-playing the entire ecosystem of that franchise for that specific year. The starting five, the bench, the coaching staff, the local media, the fanatical supporters. But wait, 300 people trying to have an improv scene in a single Discord voice channel? Sounds like an absolute auditory nightmare. People would be talking over each other constantly.
It would be impossible. To solve this, the 300-person chapter is broken down into smaller, manageable, concurrent units called story beads.
Story beads, okay.
Think of a story bead as a subplot or a specific scene within the larger movie. Within a single lore chapter, there can be up to 20 story beads running simultaneously.
Okay, that makes much more sense. So instead of 300 people in a room, you only have about 12 to 16 characters hanging out in a single story bead at any given time. It's like being at a massive 300-person wedding reception, but you're only having a conversation with the 12 people sitting at your specific table.
Exactly. And these story beads are not unsupervised. They are actively guided and managed by a player designated as a lore wrangler. A lore wrangler is a community member who has invested heavily, holding at least 7 publishing titles. This investment grants them the authority to essentially act as the dungeon master or the localized director for that specific 12 to 16 person subplot.
They wrangle the chaos.
Yes.
But who decides what the subplots are in the first place? Who decides that Table 3 is going to argue about a contract dispute, while Table 4 is going to investigate a mystery at the local speakeasy?
That overarching architectural duty falls to the lore master. A lore master is a highly invested player who holds 25 or more publishing titles. They have the authority to claim an entire lore chapter and dictate the overarching narrative design of 19 out of the 20 story beads.
19 out of 20. What about the last one?
The 20th bead, by rule, is always reserved as the player coach bead, which handles the rigid mechanics of the actual season's schedule, the win-loss simulations, and the on-court strategies.
It's a beautifully layered hierarchy of responsibility. The lore master writes the syllabus for the semester, the lore wranglers teach the individual classes, and the lore producers, the players holding 1 to 6 titles, are the students in the classroom, causing chaos and triggering conflict interactions. But what is the actual schedule of this? Does a chapter just run infinitely until people get bored?
No, it is highly structured, deeply intentional, and strictly time-bound. A single lore chapter requires 7 dedicated roleplay sessions. These sessions are called lore parties, and these 7 parties must take place over a tight, concentrated 3-week period.
The source material recommends a very specific, aggressive cadence for this. Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday of week 1, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday of week 2, and then a final conclusive Saturday session in week 3. And each of these parties is capped at somewhere between 1 to 4 hours, depending on how intense the roleplay gets.
And those 7 parties are not just unstructured hangouts where people chat about the weather. They are mandated to follow a specific 7-beat narrative arc that is explicitly designed to mirror traditional cinematic and television storytelling structures.
Let's walk through these 7 story beats, because this is where the mockumentary structure really starts to reveal itself. Beat number 1, the first Sunday party, is the hook.
The hook almost universally takes place at the team's media day or the preseason fan fest. It serves as the baseline. It establishes the initial status quo, introduces the characters to each other, and explains why these 12 to 16 specific people are in the same room.
Beat 2, happening on Tuesday, is the turn. This acts as the first significant plot twist, throwing the characters out of their comfort zone. Beat 3 is the pinch, which escalates the tension and forces the characters to commit to a course of action. But Beat 4 is where the narrative gets incredibly real. Beat 4 is the punch.
The punch is exactly what it sounds like. It is designed to deliver a major emotional, physical, or cognitive hit to the characters. The guidelines explicitly state that this is the beat where major tragedies, career-ending injuries, or devastating scandals can occur.
Wow.
However, and this is a vital ethical constraint built into the game, if a lore wrangler wants to introduce a literal character death into the narrative, they must obtain private, out-of-character, explicit consent from the player who owns that character.
Which makes perfect sense. You spent $27 of real money to buy the publishing title, and you spent hours writing a 60-facet backstory. A rogue lore wrangler shouldn't be allowed to just drop a piano on your character's head in week 2 because they thought it was funny. But if you do consent, your character's death becomes a tragic, permanent legend in the 1939 canon. Moving on, Beat 5 is the squeeze, where the pressure and the stakes are at their absolute maximum. Beat 6 is the fall, where the idealistic expectations that were established way back in the hook finally collide with the harsh, undeniable realities of the season. And finally, Beat 7, that last Saturday session, is the resolution.
The resolution doesn't necessarily wrap up the character's entire life story. An individual character's arc might span decades of future lore chapters as the timeline progresses to 1940, 1941, and beyond. But it provides a satisfactory cinematic bookend for this specific 3-week localized adventure.
Now, logistically, how are you actually executing these parties? You are sitting at your computer in your living room. You use digital communication tools. The text mentions Discord, or a platform called Toucan.events, which has an interface specifically designed for moving fluidly between small, spatial groups. But here is the absolute kicker. You're required to record these audio and video sessions, and you must say every single game-relevant action out loud.
Yes. You cannot just text in a private chat that your character steals a document, and you must verbally declare it. This is because these roleplay sessions are not a private home game. The sessions are eventually uploaded to YouTube. The verbal recorded record is the raw, unrefined ore that will eventually be processed into the official wiki and subsequently the television show.
And as we're recording these sessions, we really have to immerse ourselves in the vibe of this universe, because we aren't just playing in a historically accurate simulation of 1939 America. This is a sport punk universe.
The sport punk aesthetic is a fascinating departure from reality. It is a universe completely devoid of real-world professional sports history. There is no Babe Ruth, there is no Michael Jordan, there is no Super Bowl. Instead, the universe focuses entirely on celebrating untold, hidden, or completely fabricated obscure histories, all wrapped in a fictionalized global sports ecosystem.
And it incorporates elements of magical realism. The lore establishes that each franchise is watched over by a sport god, an ancestral, astrological, spiritual guide. For instance, the Boston Potatoes worship Capricorn. The Calgary Mounted Elbow worship Taurus. And furthermore, each team is associated with a specific power element.
And these gods and elements are not just cosmetic flavor text to make the wiki look cool. They have tangible, mechanical implications for your character's progression.
How so?
If you are diligent and you attend all 7 lore parties in a chapter, participating for at least 1 hour in each session, your character is rewarded with permanent level bonuses that are specifically tied to that team's god and element.
Let's give an example. Say you are playing for the Nashville Whiskers. Their guiding god is Leo, and their elemental affinity is ink. If you attend all 7 parties, the system grants your character a permanent +2 level bonus to the ambition facet in the Clout Pledge, and a permanent +2 bonus to the authenticity facet in the Seigen branch. It heavily incentivizes commitment to the bit. But here's where I really need to push back. On behalf of every busy adult listening to this, 3 weeks, 7 parties, up to 4 hours a party, plus tracking a 60-facet character sheet, rolling random number generators, negotiating slap-flop face-offs, and recording everything. I'm getting stressed just listing it. Isn't this just an anxiety-inducing homework assignment? It sounds like an unpaid part-time job.
That is a completely valid and common initial reaction, but the creator, Kimani Okira, designed this entire architectural system with the exact opposite psychological intent. He explicitly describes the P-plug as a cognitive meditation in empathy.
An empathy meditation. I'm sorry, but how does rolling a digital dice to scream at a referee in a fake 1939 diner translate to a meditation on empathy?
Because of the forced constraints of the environment. You are actively, continuously stepping into the lived experience of a character who is likely entirely different from you in age, background, and temperament. You are interacting in real time with 300 other diverse, complex perspectives. And crucially, you are bound by the immovable rule of yes, and the story cement.
Right, you can't just ignore them.
Exactly. You cannot destroy someone else's reality just because you disagree with it. You are mechanically forced to build upon it and understand their context. The creator views this shared, highly structured, collaborative creation as an oxytocin anchor.
An oxytocin anchor. That ties directly back to the Seigen branch on the character sheet.
Precisely. It is a deliberate psychological design. Modern digital life, social media, doom scrolling, argument-driven algorithms operates as a series of cortisol anchors, generating constant stress, isolation, and anxiety. The lore game is engineered to be an oxytocin anchor, a dedicated space that generates a genuine sense of belonging, cooperative trust, and communal narrative building as a counterweight to that real-world stress.
That is a remarkably profound goal for a mockumentary sitcom.
It is. And to directly address your concern about the overwhelming time commitment, it is entirely flexible and up to the individual player. The foundational rule of the ecosystem is your time, your property. You can absolutely choose to attend all 7 4-hour sessions to min-max your stat bonuses. Or, if you are busy, you can literally pop into a voice channel for 10 minutes on a Tuesday, troll a micro-arc by throwing a hot dog, trigger a quick conflict interaction, roll your dice, and then log off. The system is robust enough to accommodate any level of engagement without breaking.
That flexibility is definitely the saving grace. Okay, so let's fast forward. We've survived the 3 weeks. The 7 lore parties are officially concluded. The final slap-flop face-offs have been resolved. The canon for 1939 is cemented. And the raw, unedited game logs are generated from the Discord recordings. Now for the million-dollar magic trick. How does this sprawling, chaotic, hundreds of hours-long improv session actually transform into a monetizable, cohesive television show? That brings us to the pipeline. From improv to archive.
The first step in this transformation process involves writing the prose. Once the raw audio and video logs are compiled, the lore wrangler for that specific story bead, or if they're unavailable, volunteer co-publishers, or eventually the show's internal staff takes that massive, unwieldy record and synthesizes it.
They have to transcribe the madness and make sense of it. And I know the focus notes mention that they can utilize AI tools, specifically trained models like Gemini, to help parse these massive game logs and format them into the press-pass structural style.
Exactly. The AI acts as a clerical assistant to distill hours of sprawling roleplay into tight, documentary-style research prose. This finalized prose is then officially published onto the PressPass wiki. At that moment, it ceases to be a game and becomes the permanent, written historical record of the Basketball Syndicate of America.
So if your character scored 50 points in a crucial game while actively hallucinating because they ate a bad clam at a seafood restaurant, that entire bizarre sequence of events is now a matter of permanent, immutable historical record on the official wiki.
It's canon.
But a text-based wiki, no matter how detailed, isn't a TV show. How do we get from text on a screen to visual media?
This is where the cinematic creation phase is initiated. Once the prose is firmly established and locked on the wiki, the lore producers, the players who own the publishing titles, review the text. They comb through the documented events and select a very specific moment involving their character that they want to bring to visual, cinematic life for the show's actual video archive.
They literally grab a camera and film it. But there are strict formatting rules and limitations based on your specific tier of ownership.
Yes, your publishing power dictates your cinematic bandwidth. If you are a lore producer holding between 1 and 24 publishing titles, you possess the right to film and submit what is called a lore meme. Lore meme is strictly time-capped at 7 seconds or less.
Which makes perfect sense for the modern media landscape. It's perfect for the TikTok, Instagram reel, short-form attention span. Just a quick, punchy, highly visual representation of a single historical moment.
However, if you are a lore master, meaning you have invested heavily and hold 25 or more titles, you have the right to film and submit a full lore scene. A lore scene can be an expansive, detailed narrative sequence up to 5 minutes in length.
A 5-minute scene is massive. That is a significant chunk of a standard 30-minute sitcom episode. But let's talk about the visual execution here. We are supposedly creating archival footage from 1939. I can't just film a 7-second meme on my modern iPhone, standing in my 2026 kitchen, wearing an Apple Watch and a graphic tee. There have to be rigorous aesthetic guidelines.
There are exceptionally strict visual rules to maintain immersion. The submitted content must be color-graded, stylized, and formatted appropriately.
Real quick, the 5-minute scenes that you submit to the archive, will never be in an episode. What? I swear everything is very thoroughly described, but since it's a new process, the AI doesn't really understand what we're doing in full. But so when you do a lore scene, you are creating a 5-minute scene for an up to 5 minutes scene for the archive. One, you have to have at least 25 publishing titles, and then two, once you have 25 publishing titles, you can submit 5-minute scenes per publishing title. The scenes themselves will be in the archive as fully compiled, produced, and edited as you, or by you. Anything that we might clip segments out of your scene for use in the show if we need to reference or flashback to the scene in the show. But yeah, I would never expect a 5-minute production from the archive to fully end up in an episode. I can't imagine a single situation where we would use more than 7 to 15 seconds of a sequence to include in a flashback or a reference point for press pass. So I just got my food. That's what I was going and doing, and I'm back, so we can close out the last 14 minutes of this together.
The style guide breaks this down into 3 acceptable types of archival footage.
All right, let's go through them. The first is OFU, which stands for original footage. This category is supposed to represent actual physical film stock captured in the era. So it must be meticulously color graded and formatted to look like it was genuinely shot on a vintage camera in 1939. We were talking specific frame rates, pillar box frame sizes, heavy film grain, scratches on the lens, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
The
Hold
second category
on.
is Macrage.
You don't have to be all Ryan Coogler with it, although if that's what you want to do, go for it. What all we mean is that if you're shooting something that was supposed to have been shot in 1939, it needs to look like it was supposed to have been shot in 1939. Don't worry about specific frame rates and frame sizes, etc. As far as frame size is concerned, the vertical selfie camera exists. In our fictional world, the vertical selfie camera was a device invented in World War I. So, yeah, just make sure that the color, like if it's supposed to be sepia toned or black and white or fuzzy and grainy, make sure it looks like the part. And we're going to keep that same consistent standard throughout the entire process. We start in 1939, we're going all the way up to 2012. So each year is a chapter. So whatever chapter you're co-publishing, whatever archive material comes out of that chapter, if it's original footage, if it's OFU, it needs to look like the year that it was recorded in. And everybody who's in the clip needs to look like the appropriate character, et cetera, et cetera. Anytime that you're making, you're going to talk about it in a second, but anytime you're making stuff where, like if you're using characters that don't look like if you're using cast members that don't look like the character, or if it's clearly like not original footage. Artistic reenactment's the thing. You can also do media coverage, where you act like a media professional covering the moment.
Media coverage.
Yeah.
This represents the in-universe newsreels, newspaper clippings, radio broadcast recordings, or press photos from the era. These also require a highly consistent, authentic vintage quality that matches the technology of the time.
And the third category is the most creatively unhinged. It's called ARNAC, Artistic Reenactments. Because the framing device of the show is a modern-day mockumentary looking back at the history of 1939, you are allowed to submit modern, stylized reenactments of historical events. But you can't just shoot it normally. The style guide mandates a very specific aesthetic they call sport punk vaporwave.
Sport punk vaporwave is a highly distinct visual language. Think heavy neon lighting, pulsing synthwave soundtracks, glitch art, and highly stylized, almost surreal interpretations of old basketball legends. It is history filtered through a cyberpunk fever dream.
And this incredible creative effort brings us back to those critical aspects for the players. The monetization. This is the exact moment where that 20% hired collaborator performance split we discussed all the way back in Section 1 actually kicks in and starts dispensing funds.
Show me the money, as they say. The payout structure is remarkably transparent and codified. If your submitted lore meme or lore scene is actually selected by the showrunner to be integrated into the final
Not just
cut of the
me.
Season 1 mockumentary series, the bounty payout ranges from $109 to $1,475 per clip.
Up to $1,400 for a 7-second video clip. And that payout scales directly with how many pieces of the puzzle you own, right?
Exactly. Higher token ownership translates mathematically to a higher multiplier on your bounty. Furthermore, even if your clip isn't in the main episode, if it is utilized in any advertising or promotional material for the show, the ad bounty ranges from $35 to $475.
Okay, but let's look at the worst case scenario. What if I spend all weekend perfectly lighting and color grading my 7-second 1939 original footage meme? I submit it, and the showrunner just doesn't pick it, doesn't make the TV show, doesn't make the commercial. Did I just completely waste my time and effort?
Not at all. And this is perhaps the most brilliant use of the underlying decentralized technology. Every single submitted and approved meme or scene, regardless of whether it makes a television cut, is automatically minted into a piece of digital merchandise. It essentially becomes a digital trading card featuring your video with a strictly limited production run of 1,000 editions. The creators have noted they intend to work with massive existing infrastructure partners, names like Fanatics, Disney, and Dapper Labs, to host this trading card shelf, which will launch as soon as a sufficient supply of cards is co-published by the community.
And who decides the retail price of these 1,000 trading cards?
You do. The creator of the meme sets the market price. The system enforces a minimum list price of $5 to maintain a baseline value, but beyond that, you can price it at $10, $50, whatever you believe the market will bear. And the revenue split on this merchandise is incredibly creator-friendly. You keep up to 50% of the gross revenue if the visual work is entirely your original creation.
50%. Let's just do some basic napkin math. If you price your meme at the minimum $5 and you manage to sell out your 1,000 editions to fans of the universe, that is $5,000 in gross revenue. You walk away with $2,500. Just from the merchandising side, completely independent of whether you ever got a TV show bounty. That is a viable income stream for digital artists.
It definitely is.
But hold on, let me put my troll hat on for a second. Let's push back on the integrity of this lore one more time. If I am incentivized to make visually spectacular, crazy videos to sell trading cards, what stops me from breaking the universe? Can I just film a meme of my 1939 basketball player riding a literal fire-breathing Pegasus, dunking the ball from the rafters while shooting lasers from his eyes?
You absolutely can film that, but the system will not accept it as objective reality within the canon. However, the architecture contains a highly specific, ingenious loophole designed precisely to accommodate this exact kind of surreal creativity. It is called an Umwelt.
An Umwelt? That sounds like a German philosophical term.
It is.
In
the context of the...
It's trying to replicate how people talk, and so people, it sounds like this. I was trying to replicate it, but it's like it sounds like this exact thing that it is. So this exact and precise thing that it sounds like a German philosophical term. Sorry, AI is so funny to me sometimes. But that's peak comedy. That's peak comedy. Anyway, yeah. So let's just say that you do film your character on a fire-breathing Pegasus and you submit it to the archive as a trading card. That's totally okay. Maybe it wasn't any part of the role-played canon. But what we're going to do is we're going to receive your content, and we're going to say that the character perceived the moment in the lore as this. So it's like this is what was in their head, like their head canon. So there's the official general canon, and then anything that's super confrontational to the official general canon will just be head canon from that specific character. So that's our loophole.
A lore game. An Umwelt refers to the highly subjective, entirely lived reality that exists only within a specific character's mind. So, if you submit a beautifully rendered video of your player dunking from a Pegasus, the system can approve it. But the surrounding wiki prose and the lore will explicitly, legally frame it as a hallucination, a fever dream, or an ego-driven fantasy occurring purely within your character's imagination.
I absolutely love that mechanism. The lore stretches to accommodate the insanity without ever breaking the grounded, objective reality of the universe. The rulebook literally has a clause that says Pegasus Dragons don't exist in Sportpunk unless they are a hockey team. So you can be as visually unhinged as you want in your 7-second meme, as long as it's officially categorized as your character's personal delusion.
It fiercely protects the story cement while simultaneously allowing for maximum creative and visual expression from the co-publishers.
Okay, this is incredible. We know the rules of engagement. We know the financial splits of the smart treasury. We know how to navigate the 60-facet character sheet and survive a slap-flop face-off. If you, the listener, are hyped right now, if you are ready to jump onto the open market, grab a V1 or V2 publishing title, and start playing what team should you actually play for. Let's take a look at the available roster and choose our allegiances.
The 1939 Basketball Syndicate of America launched the fascinating slate of original franchises. The source material highlights 7 of these foundational teams.
Let's run through the roll call. We have the Boston Potatoes, the Manhattan Pantaloons, the Calgary Mounted Elbow, the Allentown Oats, the Los Angeles Wet Fountains, the Nashville Whiskers, and the Utah Slam Poets. I have to say, these names are absolute comedic gold.
They are comedic gold, but those are not the 12 original teams. So let's just take a moment and make sure we're doing the right thing here. Uncle Fu teams. I'm glad that's trending. That makes me happy. Oh, I just need the main page, right? I don't know. I'm going to the Basketball Syndicate of America. Let's let my browser bot. Oh, I don't know if I have it on Chrome.
The original B-Soft.
BS of A teams of 1939. East Side teams 1. The original BS of A teams of 1939. East Side teams 1. The Allentown Oats were founded in Allentown, Pennsylvania, USA. 2. The Boston Potatoes were founded in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. 3. The Columbus Dutch were founded in Columbus, Ohio, USA. 4. The Manhattan Pantaloons were founded in Harlem, New York City, New York, USA. 5. The Pittsburgh Gridlock were founded in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA. 6. The Yonkers Highness were founded in Yonkers, New York, USA. West Side teams 1. The Calgary Mounted Elbow was founded in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. 2. The Chicago Red Beans were founded in Chicago, Illinois, USA. 3. The Los Angeles Wet Fountains were founded in Los Angeles, California, USA. 4. The Minnesota Menace were founded in St. Paul, Minnesota, USA. 5. The Nashville Whiskers were founded in Nashville, Tennessee, USA. 6. The San Francisco Buoys were founded in San Francisco, California, USA.
Yes, they were in this fiction.
Encapsulate that old-timey, slightly absurd, deeply regional era of early professional sports before everything became hyper-corporate and focus grouped. So if we are drafting our allegiances right now for our own hypothetical deep dive characters, who are you taking off the board?
Oh, this is the easiest decision of my life. I am enthusiastically, 100% claiming the Calvary Mounted Elbow. First of all, the name is just incredibly aggressive for absolutely no reason. What is a mounted elbow? I don't know, but it sounds painful. But more importantly, if we look at the lore, their assigned sport god is Taurus. And if you know anything about my personality, you know that perfectly fits my completely stubborn, bullish, highly enthusiastic nature. I am going to build a role player who just puts his head down, charges into the paint, and refuses to apologize. What about you?
Looking at the field analytically, I would have to select the Nashville Whiskers.
The Whiskers. Interesting. Why them?
It comes down to analyzing the mechanical advantages of their specific lore. Their sport god is Leo, and their unique power element is ink. As we discussed earlier in the lore game, attending all the lore parties for the Whiskers grants a permanent statistical bonus to the authenticity facet within the Seigen branch. For someone with an analytical, truth-seeking mindset, possessing a naturally high authenticity stat is an incredible tactical advantage during conflict interactions. It allows me to cut through the performative noise and establish rigid, factual narratives.
That is the most expert answer possible. You are literally min-maxing the empathy stats for tactical advantage. Okay, let's playfully hypothesize this to see how the whole system comes together. What happens when our two characters inevitably meet on the court? We have a stubbornly loyal, high-ego, Calgary-mounted elbow player, that's me, and let's say you are a highly authentic Nashville Whiskers media pundit sitting courtside.
A classic highly volatile player versus media dynamic.
Exactly. Let's say it's a tight game, and I trigger a conflict interaction with you during the post-game press conference over a controversial free-to-pull ruling that cost my team the game.
A free-to-pull being the sport punk universe's equivalent of a free throw, which the mechanical...
Okay, this is a bad example because the Nashville media professional is most likely not going to be in the same lore chapter and in the same story beat as the Calgary Mounted Elbow player. I'm not going to say never. That can absolutely happen. But that would mean somebody would have to register a Nashville media member in the chapter of Calgary Mounted Elbows, in the chapter of the Calgary Mounted Elbow, and then role play that Nashville media member within Calgary context. Totally spot. You can totally do that. Nobody's stopping you. It's just going to, I would say that the difficulty there is you're sort of limited to the Calgary-Nashville interactions during the season schedule for any real story. But I also, that said, who knows where the story beats are going to go? I mean, some of the story beats will have nothing to do with the game at all. And so if your guy's just in Calgary the entire time and they're Nashville and they're supposed to be covering Nashville, that can be worked into it. So, yeah, but for the most part, everybody who's in the same adventure, same story beat in the same chapter are going to be registered to the same team. We do have some characters. I think we have one ecosystem professional from the Manhattan Pantaloons in the chapter for the Boston Potatoes, in the 1939 Boston Potatoes. We have one Yonkers Highness fan that's in the lore chapter of the 1939 Allentown Odes. And both of those characters are available. You can claim them for about $20-$30. So if you want to try out what I'm talking about, it's built in.
Rules strictly state must always be taken with a two-step running start.
Right. So I'm at the microphone, pounding the table, arguing that the referee blew the call and the opponent traveled, and I am using my high ego facet to try and shout you down and control the narrative. You are sitting in the front row, using your high authenticity facet to prove, with photographic evidence, that I actually stepped over the line and cost my own team the game.
The story bead would pause. The room of 12 to 16 players would vote on the fulcrum facet. If the room votes that the core of the argument is about authenticity, I have a massive statistical advantage because of my Whiskers bonus. If they vote that it's a battle of ego, you have the advantage. We both roll our random number generators, capped by our respective levels.
Let's say the unimaginable happens. We tie. My ego roll exactly matches your authenticity roll. We are instantly thrown into a sudden death, Cecil-flop face-off. We abandon our stats, we both roll 1 through 5 over and over until someone breaks the tie. But wait, this brings up a fundamental sports question that we haven't covered. In the actual simulated games played in this universe, the games that create the story cement, are there any ties? Does a basketball game ever just end in a draw?
The source material addresses this philosophy by drawing on a mention of a different league within the broader sport punk universe, the Unkilfu, which stands for United Club Football. The structural rule for their playoffs, which is magnificently titled the Lore War Clusterflock, explicitly states that games never result in a draw.
The Lore War Clusterflock, that is poetry.
If a game is tied at the end of regulation, it immediately goes to extra time. If it is still tied after extra time, it goes to penalty kicks. The underlying design philosophy is that there must always be a definitive winner and a definitive loser. Therefore, the lore always moves forward decisively. There is never any ambiguous story cement.
That is so functionally important for keeping a 300-person narrative engine moving without stalling. You can't have a 3-week chapter end in a collective shrug. Someone has to win, someone has to lose, and everyone needs to look at the scoreboard, say yes, and figure out how their character deals with the fallout.
It is a truly remarkable feat of organizational, financial, and narrative engineering.
It truly is. Which brings us to the end of this massive, sprawling deep dive. Let's take a breath and summarize the incredible journey we just took. We started with the simple, accessible act of buying a digital publishing title on the blockchain for $27, moving past all the traditional crypto stigma to understand it as a literal, automated deed of intellectual property managed by an indestructible vending machine.
We then explored the meticulous creation of a deeply complex persona, utilizing a 60-facet character sheet and a 49-point behavioral alignment chart, ensuring genuine psychological depth and unpredictability in the roleplay.
We battled it out in the trenches of conflict interactions, learning how to use factions, avoid burnout, and Campion LFP our way to narrative victory without ever breaking the sacred story cement.
We survived the intense, highly structured 3-week schedule of the 7 lore parties, moving systematically from the hook to the devastating potential of the punch, all the way to the resolution under the careful guidance of lore wranglers and lore masters.
And finally, we saw how that raw, chaotic 1939 improv is distilled into official wiki prose, and then meticulously filmed into sport punk vaporwave archival footage that actually earns real-world hard-coded bounties and residual splits from a monetized mockumentary series. It is breathtaking in its ambition.
It is a complete reinvention of the medium, and I think it leaves us with a deeply profound final thought to mull over long after this deep dive ends. If we look back at the history of our favorite real-world sports franchises, the New York Yankees, the Los Angeles Lakers, Manchester United, we have to seriously ask ourselves, how much of that accepted history was meticulously written and sanitized by corporate media conglomerates and PR departments, and how much was actually shaped by the raw, messy, lived emotion of the fans and the bleachers?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? Who actually owns the history?
Press Pass All Access is asking a profound societal question wrapped in a comedic game. What happens to human history when the fans are handed the pen, the camera, the financial ledger, and the publishing rights, and told to archive reality themselves? What does history look like when the curation is truly financially democratized?
What happens when the X-ray machine of traditional top-down media is completely broken, and we, the fans, the hot dog vendors, the bench warmers, are the ones muddying and then clearing up the waters? That is a thought that is going to stick with me for a very long time. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the P-plot. If you are feeling inspired, go out to the open market, grab a V1 or V2 publishing title, build your 60-facet character, respect the story cement, and start yes-anding your way into television history. We will catch you next time.
We will catch you next time. All right, thanks for watching. I wanted to take that on stream, and I think I'll use that to wrap it up. So, thanks for checking in. And, oh, let me post the publishing titles, of course. Version 1. I need my Firefox for that. I mean, it's all on fandom. It's literally on page 1. It's literally right there. Version 1, version 2. So I'll just link to there. That's the more sensible link. Go to presspass.fandom.com. Go to version 1. Make sure you have your MetaMask browser installed. I typed that in right. Okay. They're $17 right now. $18 for a notable fan or an ecosystem professional, and just to support the idea that what you publish, you own. That's the number one thing. That's like number one. This is really fun to co-publish the what happened in the lore. You know, that's what that is. You create a character, you role play history, you film a scene. The scene is a digital trading card, and you're co-publishing what happened. I thought this was clever. I thought you execute a complicated proof of concept in 33 seconds. But we lost black humanity over the years. Black Lives Matter was responded to by most white Americans with vitriol and disgust. And if it wasn't conscious and loud, it's subconscious and behavioral. So, but that's the only reason we're here. So that's it. Okay? All right. Have a good day, everyone.